Race fans, the 100% Cup Series welcomes you to Phoenix Raceway for the final event of the season. The winner-take-all event between 4 championship contenders that have made it all the way to the end. I'm Andre Grambush, joined alongside Chris Curtis and, of course, Mason Heimbach, two of the best in the business, and the producer, Carlos Acosta, the man pushing the buttons, bringing all the action to your TVs and computers. Chris, Mason, this is going to be one fine event. I've been looking forward to this all year. Phoenix is a great way to cap out the season. And boy, we got some great competition coming. What are you guys looking forward to?
Well, Andre, sorry, Chris. It's way to start off the night to a great start here on my part. My bad there, Chris. But it's been an exciting season that we've had here with the 100% Cup Series. I know I kind of came in towards the end of the season, but we've saw quite a bit of action leading up to the finale here. We've seen drivers contending for points very closely to one another, competing side by side and just duking it out in these series here. And it's been exciting. And coming here to Phoenix, it's going to be another exciting race, I think. It was actually here at the older track layout, the 08 layout with another league. So this track is going to be very interesting to see here in the new setup with slightly different cars here. So I'm excited. I hope everyone else here at home is also excited as well as you guys here in the booth.
On this side, it's just championships. It's all about winner take all. You got 4 racers that have a chance to go in and win the championship here in the 36th race of the season. And like Mason, came in towards the end, but have enjoyed the time and enjoyed the competition throughout. A little bit of on-track and off-track drama has obviously made the races that much more entertaining, and looking for a culmination of all of that as everything comes to a head today.
Absolutely. The 4 championship contenders tonight are going to be the defending series champ Cameron Stone, alongside the other 3, Bryson Hixsbaugh, Adam Benefiel, and Jonathan Delaney. Now, we have some interviews pre-recorded with 3 of them, but one of them we're going to have a word with live real quick as we bring him down, and that is Jonathan Delaney. Let's see if we can get him. John Delaney, you got a copy?
I do. Yes, I do.
Well, John, it has been a very impressive playoffs for you. And tonight is the big night. This is the winner-take-all event. How you feeling right now, man?
Definitely some nerves. I think that's bound to happen, going into a big race like this. But I feel really confident. We've had some really good runs these last few weeks. So I think if we carry over our momentum, I think we're going to be really good.
Absolutely. Now, with this track being a little bit in your wheelhouse, I'd say you're a pretty good short-track driver. How do you feel about your chances with the domination you've had and just the way that you've been able to perform on these kind of short track race style tracks? Who, if anybody, are you most worried about in terms of competition?
I think I really don't have anyone in particular. I think Cam's gonna be quick. I don't really know the speed of Adam and Bryson. I know they've been working together this week, so I'm pretty sure they're gonna, I'm gonna assume they're gonna be pretty fast. So, I think if we just, play everything right, I think we'll be really good, and we won't have to worry about them.
All right, John. Well, I hate to cut you short. We're a little strapped for time. We got a few other interviews we got to get through, but we do thank you for stopping by the booth, and we wish you the best of luck in this race, man.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
And that is Jonathan Delaney getting ready to take part in the event. And speaking of those other 3 interviews, how about we check those out? And we're going to start out with Adam Benefiel first up. All right, we're here with Adam Benefiel, driver of the championship contender tonight here at Phoenix. Adam, first of all, thank you for coming out. Answering some questions before the race. I'll tell you what, this race I think is one that a lot of the drivers have been looking forward to for a long time. And you've told me in the past, Adam, that you never really show your hand too early in a race. Sometimes you take it easy and you let the field get comfortable before you really strike. But with tonight being the winner-take-all event, does that change anything in that regard? Is your driving style going to have to change a little bit?
In my opinion, no. We'll still go about it just the way that we have all season. It's kind of my MO, really. I don't like to fire out the gate. I don't have that pace. I don't like to do it. I kind of like to make sure that the cars, I take care of the car and take care of the tires and the equipment, so we're there at the end when it really counts the most.
Absolutely. I got to ask, Adam, you've ran, I think, the least races out of your competitors throughout the playoffs. And I got to ask, does that pose any additional challenges going into tonight? Do you think it's going to make things a little bit more difficult, or business as usual?
No, I don't think so. I think it's business as usual. Being surrounded, with the guys at Team Conti, it's kind of like how we are over there. We don't, even for Coke races, we don't test a whole lot, but when we do test, it's we know what we're looking for, and we know what we need, and time is utilized properly. So it's been the same case with this week. We have dumped some more time into it than we normally have, but we're just trying to go out here and win it and get the job done, and really doing it all for Dustin's nephew Jimmy. So this is all for him.
Absolutely. Hashtag Jimmy Strong will be one of the sponsors of the race, so viewers can keep that in mind. It's a great thing that we're coming together and just trying to support a family who really needs it. Leading into the third question, you kind of already answered a little bit there, Adam, but with your affiliation with Team Conti, you have a lot of backing and a lot of support with just about every endeavor you choose to pursue here on iRacing. Do you think that the team support and being able to have the backing of so many great team members is going to help you out tonight, and it's going to be an advantage over the rest of the guys?
I think having their support and their knowledge, I know earlier this week we were able to get all of us into a room and kind of got to chipping away at it a little bit. So they've stepped in this week and tried to help us out a lot. But it's huge to have those guys backing me and supporting not just me but Dustin as well. And they're a great group of guys, and I couldn't ask for more. I tell everybody that I know if something was to ever happen and Team Conti shut down or I get kicked off, I'll just go ahead and sell everything I got and hang it up, because there's no other team I would rather be on. It's the best team on iRacing, and the best group of guys, and especially this week it was kind of cool because we brought in you heard it here first. We brought in Bryson. So he's coming into the stable, and a lot of work and everything has went into it. So hopefully the work shows, because the same car will be under the same car that's on, or the same setup that's on the 83 will also be on the 63.
All right, breaking news here in the pre-race interviews. Didn't see that one coming, but Adam is always a driver who surprises, so that's pretty interesting to hear. But that just about does it for the questions, Adam. Again, I appreciate your time, and good luck out there tonight, man.
Thanks, brother.
All right, so that was Adam Benefield's thoughts prior to the event tonight. We're going to go ahead and hear from the next one, Bryson Hixsbaugh, driver of the number 63. Let's see how he felt on his home track tonight. Here with another one of the Championship 4 contenders, Bryson Hixsbaugh, driver of the number 63. Bryson, first of all, thanks for showing up and answering some questions before the race. Tell you what, November 6th is a date that I think all the drivers have had on their schedule for quite some time. The day has finally come. You've had a phenomenal year so far, B. Hicks. A number of wins and just really great performance all year long. I gotta ask though, throughout the playoffs, you've had some internet issues that have been persisting. Is that a concern tonight, or have you got them resolved?
It's still a little bit of a concern. I think I've got a solution, but I had 2 random problems in the last 2 races I ran, so it's better than it was, but it's not perfect yet. I just gotta hope that it doesn't cause me any major issues tonight.
All right. Last year, you came really close to bringing home the championship title, but stock car racing is a game of inches, and unfortunately, things went sideways there at the very end. Do you view last year's events as something you can use to learn from and improve, or rather as something to be forgotten as you move on to bigger and better things and another opportunity?
Well, I think it depends on how the end of the race goes. That was a green-white checkered attempt there. I was being aggressive, Cam was being aggressive, and I assumed he would do something that he didn't do, and that was on me to do that. I should have known that it wasn't going to work out, and it ended up costing me my chance at winning. So if it comes down to that at the end of the race, I know what I need to change then. But it was kind of a unique circumstance, so hopefully we won't be in that situation again.
Absolutely. And finally, this championship race takes place at your home track. And I got to ask, does that give you any extra motivation or inspiration to try to go out there and bring it home?
It's always great to come to your home race and try and win. I've pretty much made it known that I'm not a huge fan of the playoff format, so I'm not too worried about winning the championship myself. It'd be great to go out here and win and celebrate, but I don't think it changes how I feel about my season, and it didn't change how I felt about my last season either when I didn't win. Maybe my opinion would change if I did win it and I got the trophy, but right now I'm just going out there doing the best I can tonight and seeing if I can get the win.
All right, well, we wish you the best of luck out there tonight, and hopefully things go pretty well for you, and we'll be talking to you after the race. Thanks for showing up here, Bryson. All right, and now time to hear from our final playoff contender, Cameron Stone, the defending champion. Let's see what he thought. All right, we're here with one of the Championship 4 contenders, Cameron Stone, driver of the number 57. Cam, first of all, thanks for coming on to the show and answering some questions for us before the race. And we do got a few questions here. You said all season long, Cam, that your goal was just to get to Phoenix with a chance at the championship. Wins were nice, but they were just kind of icing on the cake. Phoenix has really been your goal all season long. So how does it feel, and what does it mean now that you've accomplished that goal and you're showing up to Phoenix for the second year in a row with a chance at a second championship?
Well, it's a bit of validation, really. It hasn't been a very easy year for us. It hasn't gone like last year. The competition is so much better, and just not winning as many races as we did last year has been tough. But we've been real consistent, and just making it here with a chance, like you said, it's all I really wanted to do all years. You give me one race to go out there and give it everything I've got, and that's all I can really ask for at this point.
Absolutely. And Phoenix is a track that really, I would say, plays into your skill set. You've always been a short track racer at heart, and a lot of what you learn at those short tracks can be applied here. Do you feel that gives you an upper hand on the competition?
Yeah, I think the Phoenix race we had earlier this year, we missed on the set pretty bad and had a bad showing. But last season, we won the championship race last year. We finished third in the spring race last year, so we've got a pretty good track record at this place. A lot of people like to compare it to Richmond. On the sim, I view it a lot differently. The new 3 and 4 is kind of similar to the Richmond 3 and 4, but 1 and 2 is a completely different animal in itself. So I just really like these tracks that there's a lot of off-throttle time. There's a lot of different options on where to place your car, enter in the corner or exit in a corner. A little bit of brake work in there too. So these are the kind of tracks that I definitely would consider my bread and butter on the service.
Absolutely. And you're one of the drivers that I know that puts in, I would say, more practice than a lot. Even for a regular race, you'll sit there in the simulator and you'll turn hundreds of laps. With this being the winner-take-all event of the year, have you done anything special to prepare, or is it just business as usual?
Well, this week, I think, out of all the weeks this year, this is probably the most I've practiced in a week leading up to one. There's been a lot of more attention to detail, I would say. So usually I would go out and run, make a long run and adjust the feel of the car here and there. But this week we got the feel right pretty early in the week, and then we started working on just getting more speed, down the straightaways and whatnot. So I pulled out all the stops. I've had the boys from ERG and Triad helping me out this week. I've had Robert Miller helping me out this week. I've run laps with Adam and Bryson, Dustin too. So we've really pulled out all the stops to try to make this thing as quick as possible tonight.
All right. Well, hopefully you guys have succeeded in that, and good luck tonight.
I appreciate you, Andre.
All right, so that was a word from our championship contenders. Let us know in the chat, who are you pulling for tonight? But speaking of picks, we're getting real close to gridding, Chris and Mason. So I got to hear it. Who do you guys think is going to get it tonight?
Mason, go for it.
Oh, well, giving me the first pick of the night. Well, let's see. Jonathan Delaney, we already had a word with him. He was feeling pretty confident going into Phoenix here. And I got to say, he's a fairly consistent short track racer, but we also seen the same thing from Cameron Stone, as well as I believe it was Bryson Hixsbaugh, who we also saw last week. A few other drivers that I'm missing, but man, it's going to be hard to say. A lot of these guys I have not really seen on short tracks, and I'm really going to just go with the obvious pick here. I'm going to go with Jonathan Delaney. I think he's going to pull away with the win, but I do think that there are a handful of other drivers that we'll be looking out for tonight.
On my side, I think I'm going to go with Adam Benefiel. Actually, we saw him a couple weeks ago at Texas, and he was absolutely dominant for a majority of that race. And he was not in Martinsville a week ago, which is part of the reason why Jonathan Delaney, I think, had kind of the run of things a little bit. Jonathan Delaney, a darn good driver in his own right, but I think Adam Benefiel, based on experience and based on his performance that I've seen, I think he's got the makeup to go ahead and take it tonight.
I'd have to agree. I'm going to go with Cameron Stone. You guys left the defending champ wide open, so I'm going to take it. But quickly, I'm going to go ahead and get through the starting grid, as we are, again, a little bit pressed for time, as usual. That's par for the course. But on the pole tonight, Jonathan Delaney alongside Robert Miller. That's going to make up row 1. Row 2 is going to be Cameron Stone and Bryson Hixsbaugh. So 3 of your championship 4 are in the first 2 rows. Then right behind him, you got Adam Benefiel and Brandon Pierce. Looking into the next row, Dave Fugue Jr. and Lucas Hoytsma. Behind them, Dustin Hall, Patrick Much. And from the top 10, he's going to ride out the top 10. Behind them, you got Jason S. Taylor, Sean O'Brien, Tanner Noel, Cody Bird, Randy Drumhiller, Tyler Pinsino, David Duke, Preston McRae, Damaris Hickenbottom, Alex Brinson, Ryan Samuelson, Dalton Mobley, and Kevin Steele. And there is the Geico restart zone, where the drivers are going to have free reign of where to start the race as long as it's inside that official restart zone. But we do have one extended lap, so they're going to make one more kind of agonizing pace lap around. I tell you what, pacing is never fun, guys, but right now these guys are probably just chomping at the bit to get on that loud pedal, and you gotta think this extra lap's making them a little bit nervous.
Yeah, absolutely. If I was behind the pedal right now, I definitely would be a little nervous right now, especially given that it's the last race of the season. You kind of want to put on your best performance that you possibly can to kind of close things out on a good note. And especially coming here to Phoenix on a slightly different track, as we see pace car head into pit road here. Yeah, things are definitely going to be pretty nerve-wracking for a lot of these guys here, I think. But I think everyone is going to be looking to have an excellent race here today, as we get ready to take our first green flag laps around Phoenix Raceway tonight here at the Oval.
Looking for me and looking at how these guys' tires are going to fare on the 1.5 miles that we are at in Phoenix. It's going to be fun to find out where everybody's aggression level sits, especially those of the leaders in the standings, those that are actually competing for the championship. How much of a risk, especially early on in this race, do they want to take against some of the racers that have nothing to lose, coming in and maybe taking their spot temporarily?
I would say tonight is not the night to take too many risks. You got to make sure you're in it at the end, but you never know. Some of these guys do some pretty surprising things from week to week in terms of strategy or just driving style. But Jonathan Delaney got an amazing initial start there. He was able to get about 3 car lengths on Robert Miller, but it's only taken him about 1.5 laps to close that gap back. So Robert Miller was, actually I talked to Cam a little bit after the interview. He stuck around, and when I asked Cam who his pick was for tonight, he didn't pick himself. He actually said, well, I think the guy who wins the race isn't going to be a championship 4 driver. I think it's going to be somebody outside the playoffs. And when I asked him who, he said, well, that number 10 car, Robert Miller. So I think the competition even has a lot of faith in that 10. They see a lot of speed from the practice and qualifying. And it would appear they're right, because he is right on the bumper of the number 9. And this is kind of the part of the run where I think it's going to be really important for him to try to make a move if he's going to make one. Adam Benefiel, I was talking to him a little bit about the setup and how the cars are handling. and he said everybody hits a tire wear plateau about mid-run. You know, the short run is the most important. Everybody's the same speed on the mid-run, and then on the long run, a few drivers like Jonathan Delaney, he thought were going to accelerate. Between that 10 to 20 lap run, he thought everybody was going to be evenly paced. So if you don't make a move before that, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a very stressful race for a lot of these guys here tonight. I believe it's 312 laps here at Phoenix, and this layout is quite a unique one, I would say, for an oval setup. You know, the turns 1 and 2, they're not quite consistent with turns 3 and 4. It's quite an interesting layout that we have here, and these drivers are going to be taking full advantage of that, as well as this track can be quite fast, I would say, especially in these cars here tonight, as we see Robert Miller putting the pressure on Jonathan Delaney in the number 9 machine. Robert Miller taking that low line around Jonathan Delaney coming out of turns 2 down the backstretch, heading into turn 3 and 4. But Jonathan Delaney able to keep out in front. Like I said, guys, these guys are going to be going really fast here tonight.
You called out the uniqueness of the track, and that is absolutely a fact, because you can see there's more than a couple of opportunities on the going into the back straight that you have to chances as a driver to get into the infield, to cut your turn a little bit short and to give yourself a bit of a launching pad, actually not into the back, but onto more like turn 3, turn 4 area. So that is one of the more unique parts of this layout, getting completely flat and reverting the banking, and then going up the bank and trying to stay away from that wall. It's a skill to be able to do that and keep your speed, but it's going to happen on multiple occasions, especially as things open up and the cars spread out a little bit.
Absolutely, and we do have a new leader in Robert Miller. He was able to complete that move, and he got around that number 9 pretty easily. But what's surprising me now is that Cameron Stone is going to follow him right by the number 9. This short run speed out of the 57 is definitely notable. The fact that he was able to get around this number 9 and maintain this position so far really shows a lot. And again, I know Cam is going to be really, really pushing his car tonight. Everybody in the Final Four is. But Cam, call him superstitious, but he wants this championship so bad. Last year, when he won the championship, the day of the race, he went to a Chick-fil-A near his house. Well, today, the day of this championship race, he went to that same Chick-fil-A, even though he moved. So he drove 20 miles just to go to that exact same Chick-fil-A to try and recreate his success from last year.
You know, I gotta say, for as far as dedication, that is quite the level of dedication, and hopefully it pays out for Cameron here tonight and he's able to pull out a win. But he's already looking quite promising in that number 57, staying behind the number 10 of Robert Miller currently. You know, he's got a little bit of work to do, but, you know, if Cameron's able to stay consistent and stay on that bumper of Robert Miller and kind of stay in that draft for as long as he possibly can, and maybe even overtake him if he's able to, it's going to play in Cameron's favor. But we'll only see how that kind of works out for him as, you know, as these guys get a little bit older tires. It's going to be interesting to see how these cars kind of drift around the track. You'll see it kind of later on in the race. I would say probably closer to laps 40 or 50 is when these cars will start kind of sliding around a little bit more than usual. But I gotta say, Cameron's looking quite promising out there, as well as Robert Miller, who's currently leading this race quite impressively.
Adam Benefiel has taken over the 4 spot from Bryson Hixsbaugh, 2 of the championship contenders, right in that spot. Bryson Hixsbaugh definitely was not giving Benefiel the inside, and then eventually didn't really have a choice based on the turns that Benefiel was making. Good turn speed so far for Benefiel, taking the inside line more so on the straights than other drivers as well. So he's going to be one I'm watching to try to catch up to these top 3. Jonathan Delaney in his sights about a second behind.
Yeah, that Jimmy Strong Chevrolet is on the move. The fact that he was able to get around Bryson Hixsbaugh is pretty impressive, considering we're in that sort of plateau where I think the 83 was the least confident. You know, he's saying between 10 and 20 laps into a run, that's when my car feels the worst. And despite that, that is the exact window that he was making that move. So if he's fast when he's not comfortable, I can't imagine what's going to happen later in the event. And I mean, you heard in the interview, he's not changing up his driving style. He's still not going to come out here and just come out the gate swinging. He's gonna turn his laps. He's going to scope out the competition, see what they have, and when it matters, that's when he's going to start taking risks. That's when he's going to get aggressive. But for right now, he's doing exactly what he wants to do. He's running right behind the competition. He can study their lines, he can watch what their cars are doing, and if they decide to pull any crazy pit strategy or do anything we may not be expecting, well, he'll be right there to see it. But these guys are not letting the leader, Robert Miller, get away. With the speed that number 10 had, I really thought that you add the advantage of clean air and he's going to drive off into the sunset. But no, Cameron Stone has been right on the bumper, challenging that number 10 for a number of laps now. And Delaney hasn't really fallen off the 57 either. I mean, we got 3 cars under a blanket. And if you look at the lap times, Adam Benefiel has actually been lapping just slightly faster than this lead pack. So give it a few laps. We may have a 4-car battle up front.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head there, Andre. You know, one thing that you mentioned as well, Robert Miller is not able to quite pull away from this field, and it almost makes me wonder if we have a few drivers here with cars that might be a little bit faster, might have been set up a little bit better for this track and for this race here tonight, and it might play in their favor a little bit more. We know that Jonathan Delaney is an impressive long run racer. So we'll be kind of looking for that as well out of the number 9 of Jonathan Delaney, as he's still on the bumper of Cameron Stone in that 57. Jonathan taking that low line coming out of, I believe that was turn 2. Impressive work from Jonathan, and I don't think he's going to lose that pace anytime from that 57 to Cameron Stone if he doesn't just overtake him outright. But yeah, I think these 2 cars out here behind the number 10 of Robert Miller, it's they're going to be in that mirror of that number 10, I think, for quite some time. So unless Robert has a trick up his sleeve or he's just playing a little bit of fuel saving, a little bit of tire saving, I'm really curious to see what that number 10 is going to do here tonight.
Top 3 doing a pretty good job of just kind of staying with each other. You see Robert Miller's kind of put himself a little bit ahead. But Cameron Stone, Jonathan Delaney's content right now, just kind of drafting off of Cameron Stone. Draft not a huge factor right at the moment based on the speeds that they're getting, but there are certain times on the straightaway where they can work on a little bit of a slingshot. As Delaney tries to go down low, out of turn, that is turn 2. See if he can get there, but no, not quite on this occasion. Just watch for him making that move.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see him continue to make moves here, Chris, because, Mason already talked about the long run speed that we see week in and week out of this number 9. And talking to Adam Benefiel earlier today, he said the same thing. That long run is where the 9 has been fast. He couldn't quite figure out where he's finding that speed, but nonetheless, he has it, right? So I think all of the competition knows that John has that long run speed, so it's going to be kind of their tactic to play as much defense as they can for as long as they can. And something interesting about this track, too, is that from what I hear, and multiple drivers have told me, the tire wear is surprisingly low for a flat track, especially one that has a lot of heat in it. Some of these drivers were reporting that they would run 40 to 50 laps, and when they came in to take those tires off, they were seeing less than 30% tire wear from the top, I'm saying. So literally, they only lost 30%. They weren't going down to 30%. They were going down to 70%, which means if you are the guy who's cranking on the steering wheel and you're the guy who is burning it up slightly faster than the rest, that's going to mean a whole lot more here, because the other drivers do have the possibility of nullifying a lot of tire wear.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what a lot of these guys are going to do here, especially noting that, keeping that in mind. It's how this track is kind of laid out. It's very, very interesting because, like you said, Andre, you don't really... you can be that guy that's really cranking on the wheel and really sending it through these corners, but if you want to play it smart, if you want to really extend the lifetime of your car out on the track, you can definitely take it easy, and you don't have to push the car nearly as aggressively if you find the right line to do so. However, second place, though, we have Cameron Stone and Jonathan Delaney battling it out, the number 9 on the bottom coming out of turn 2. The 57 and Cameron Stone feels the pressure. Jonathan Delaney dives it down even more. He's going to possibly overtake second place. He's not quite going to be able to here, as Cameron Stone still has a little bit more speed than the number 9 of Jonathan Delaney. They're still duking it out, going down the front stretch now. Actually, the back stretch. Cameron Stone able to pull out in front of Jonathan Delaney and hopefully keep it there and retain his second place position here in this race.
That's where I was talking about. Jonathan Delaney dove down in towards the inside and onto the infield. And that's exactly what he's done a couple of times so far, trying to take that position away from Cameron Stone. I've been following via chase cam the top 4 cars at the moment, and I was seeing that from kind of a backwards view, and he got so far low, and it's hard to say whether or not he's going to be able to get back up the track and not absolutely door to door Cameron Stone there. Good control by Delaney. That's, again, a skill that he has as a driver, and it's if he's able to catch some good speed off that won't be the last time he does that today.
No, it absolutely won't. I think Delaney is going to have to be a little careful on his overtakes. When I was talking to some of the drivers about what they were seeing in practice and how they were feeling, I've had 2 or 3 drivers mention that Jonathan Delaney looks loose everywhere, like far looser than the rest of the field. Even back in practice and in qualifying, he was incredibly sideways to the point where a few of them thought he was just about wrecking it every corner. Obviously, loose is fast, and I think that's a lot of the speed that this 9 has is because the car is so free. But we're at a track, especially with the new scan of Phoenix, where the high line is actually pretty viable. In fact, some may say that it's actually a little bit better late in the run to move up high. So if he tries to dive down low and his car is already loose and he gets down on that apron or the banking transition, that car is going to try to jump out from underneath him, and he's going to have to be really careful. But here he goes with another attempt, door-to-door with the 57. He's got a good run through the middle, but there's that wiggle that I mentioned, just a little loose. Now, can Cameron use the outside line to get a better shot out of the turn? Yes, he can. The 9 has to concede it again. So it's playing out time and time again, guys. This number 9 has the speed, but with the 57 pinching him down low, that loose car just isn't having it.
Yeah, I almost wonder if the number 9, the Jonathan Delaney, is kind of fighting that car a little bit more, especially when he's making those attempts diving down on the apron like that. Like you said, that car is going to want to snap away from him. It's going to want to get away. The grip is not going to be there. The difference between grip on the high side of the track and the bottom of the track is completely different from one another. So when you're sending these cars around the track 130 miles an hour, diving down into these aprons, and the grip underneath you just suddenly changes, your car usually doesn't tend to like that. So I think Jonathan might be struggling with that a little bit, but he's maintaining it. He's keeping it consistent. But yeah, like you said, Andre, we're seeing that number 9 machine kind of wiggling just a little bit here and there, and I wonder if he's trying to use that to his advantage. Maybe he was thinking that he'd be able to kind of force these cars into these turns a little bit, kind of get it sideways just enough to keep his speed consistent, keep it fast. But that seems to be kind of biting him in the rear here today, as Cameron Stone is just putting on a clinic for that number 9, even just taking the middle line, sometimes the high line as well. So excellent job from Cameron Stone, as Jonathan Delaney able to pull it out side by side with Cameron Stone, taking the second place position. Is he going to be able to take it out in front of Cameron Stone heading into turn 2 here? Looks like he's got enough speed to be able to make it happen here.
Yeah, finally, it looks like it was his 4th attempt trying to get that inside line. He ended up overtaking the position before he tried the dive down this time. A little bit of a different strategy, but it worked out as he had the speed to be able to do that. There's only about a half second separating spots 2, 3, and 4, now 6/10, as these guys are getting closer and closer. But to Adam Benefiel, before that overtake happened, was getting real close to Jonathan Delaney's bumper as well. So I don't think Benefiel is done having something to say about that particular spot. All the while, Robert Miller is a 2.25 ahead of the 2-spot Jonathan Delaney. So he's coasting up there and just doing his thing, getting as much clean air as possible in the early parts of this race. Look for him to try to pull away and try to keep everybody behind him as far as possible as we get to the middle part and later into the stage.
I really like that move by Delaney that he used to get around the 57. He saw how loose he was getting trying to make the overtake on corner entry. So instead, he lined himself up to get a good exit, and he used that momentum to just peek the nose out underneath the 57 as they left the corner. And that gave him a huge run down the straightaway. He had the entire length of the back straight to try to build that momentum and set himself up to complete the move in the next corner. And that's the kind of thing that we're going to see a lot of tonight when it comes to overtakes. The way this track is, it's so multi-groove, and all of the lanes that you could choose are so competitive that if you're going to make an overtake, you almost have to set it up to take place over the span of 2 or 3 corners, because just one may not be enough. It's so possible to play such good defense here that just dive bombing it in and throwing a slide job may not be possible. I mean, especially when you consider the fact that we're at a flat track, and you don't really throw slide jobs at a track like this because, yeah, there's a little bit of banking, but not enough to save you before you slide up into the wall. But John, ever since he got around the 57, he is continuing to pull away. He's built up something of about 0.5 seconds, so half a second between him and Cam now, and he's actually running down the leader. If you look at the lap times, Robert Miller last time by was a 27.950. John Delaney was a 27.850. So currently a tenth faster than the leader, reeling him in. And meanwhile, Adam Benefiel also running 27.9, so he's right there on pace with him. And I think once he gets up to this 57, we may see this field bunch back up.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Jonathan Delaney is quickly reeling in that number 10 of Robert Miller. And I got to say, you know, we mentioned this a little bit earlier. We were talking about the speed of that number 10, and it looked quite promising. It looks very promising here so far. Lap 38 of 312 here, and it's looking very impressive. But like I was saying, like I mentioned earlier, I think there's a couple cars here that might be just a little bit faster, and I think Jonathan Delaney might be one of those cars, as he's starting to close that gap rather significantly. And it's dwindling turn by turn, it seems. So it's going to be interesting to see what Robert Miller is going to do as far as defense is concerned once he sees that number 9 is getting a little bit closer to his bumper.
Only 0.06 seconds is separating the last lap times between the top 4 cars. That tells you how close these guys are going to each other. It's been fun to watch these guys try to use that dynamic on each other and see just how much they can do things like draft, just how much they can do things like push their opposition and get, like, for example, Delaney, how far can he push Cameron Stone as far as diving down into that infield. And it's been a good, entertaining race so far in that aspect, where we're really starting to see the mentality of these guys. And it's a patience mentality for the most part. I think Delaney is probably the more aggressive of this group of 4 that is sitting out front. And we'll see how his patience, or how his aggressiveness, plays into the other drivers' patience up in this top pack.
I agree. Patience may be a virtue here, especially when you think about the fact that this first stage may very easily go entirely green, and they're not going to have to pit. Of course, stage 1, I believe, is going to come at about lap 75, which is just at the tail end of a fuel run. Now, if they choose to stay out, they are going to be absolutely on pretty worn tires. But with what I'm hearing about how easy it is to conserve with this scan of the track, I think a lot of these guys could make it to the end, and it wouldn't be that far of a stretch to think that they could. So if this stays green and we don't have any cautions, then yeah, you got to be patient, because if you're Cameron Stone, yes, Jonathan Delaney, Robert Miller, they're driving away from you right now. Same thing with Adam Benefiel and Bryson Hixsbaugh. They're seeing the competition get a little bit further away. But if they're just patient, they wait to the end of this stage, stage points don't matter anymore. You know, it's whatever championship driver finishes in front of all of the other 3. So the only thing that stages are good for are bunching the field back up and giving you that second shot to try to make something happen, as well as work on the car and try to make it a little bit better. If you learn something in the stage and you feel that you need to make a certain adjustment, you can do that when you come down pit road. So for a lot of these guys, they can't win it in stage 1. You know, unless there's a portal on the back straight that's going to take them to about 3 hours in the future, they can't win right now. So just take it easy, show some patience, and be there at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Patience is going to be key here tonight at Phoenix. And like you said, Andre, you know, you're going to be kind of playing into those stage cautions, relying on the bundling up of the field once again to be able to kind of give yourself another opportunity to get another chance to work your way through the field once again, because like you said, once this field kind of stretches out a little bit, once everyone gets far enough apart from one another. Oh, we have contact in the front of the field with Robert Miller getting into some lap traffic there for just a moment. It seemed there for just a second. I wasn't sure what car that, well, I think it was the 46 of Patrick Much, just barely tapped in to the number 10 of Robert Miller for just a second there. That was looked like it was going to evolve into something much worse, but we're still green and we're still racing. And as I was saying, once this field kind of stretches out a little bit, everyone gets far enough apart from each other, it's very hard to kind of close those gaps and get the field bundled up to have some kind of pack racing. As you can see on your screens now, everyone is kind of single file and kind of slowly stretching out from one another, and the only cars really putting the pressure on anyone is Jonathan Delaney in the number 9 and Cameron Stone in the 57, who are slowly getting closer and closer to the number 10 of Robert Miller.
You talked about the contact Robert Miller made with Patrick Much. Well, Much ended up in the pits because of whatever contact happened. So that's something that I'm not sure was fully intentional, but the lap traffic ends up paying the price for that, as he's in pit row and still repairing what looks like possibly damage, as he's into a 45-second pit stop going in right now. So Robert Miller, I mean, he got through the lap traffic, but it looks like there was a casualty in the process. Our first pit goes to Patrick Much in the 46.
Yeah, I went ahead and looked at the replay from my perspective there, and it looked like Robert Miller just kind of got tight out of the corner. He slid up a few lanes. Patrick Much was trying to let him go, trying to give him the high side, and unfortunately the 10 just slid up a little too much. The number 46 didn't sustain too much damage. That may have just been a matter of Pat knowing, hey, I'm not in it for the points. I'm not a championship contender. I might as well come down pit road, get this car fixed up, then we'll go back at it, because at the end of the day, he's here to have fun, and it's not necessarily fun driving around a beat-up car. So luckily, he should be able to bring it back out on track if he so chooses. Robert Miller also did sustain a little bit of damage on my end. Now, again, the damage model on iRacing is not always consistent. Peer-to-peer, sometimes client side or server side, it's a little different, but I do see a little bit of crumpling on the right rear, as we do have a 3-wide TV replay, top of the screen. That's the number 46, Patrick Much. Now watch as he comes out of the corner. The front end just watches up on him. He gets a little bit tight, and there goes Much into that outside safer barrier, not once but twice. And he's going to have to bring that thing down pit road ultimately. But we do have a challenge for the lead, and that is Jonathan Delaney trying to do the same thing he did to Cameron Stone earlier, but he's not quite able to set it up there. Now, again, John tried to make that move on corner entry, and it didn't work out for him. So I got to wonder, is he going to try to replicate that move he made on Cam where he set it up for corner exit?
He might just be aiming to do just that here as he takes another dive down turn 1, coming into turns 2 here. He's going to make another stab at the lead, and he takes it out into first, but Robert Miller still on his door. Robert has a little bit more speed, able to retain that first place position with Jonathan Delaney still behind him. Jonathan's going to not dive, but he's going to fall behind the number 10 of Robert Miller. He's going to stay on the bumper of the number 10 as he gets ready to take another stab at the lead here, once again diving down into turn 1, coming into turn 2 here. Let's see what he's going to do here for the lead position. Robert Miller taking that middle line, trying to take as much defense as he possibly can, and doing quite an impressive job of doing that as well. And like you said earlier, Andre, it seems to be that middle to high line seems to be a favorable point, as you're able to retain more speed in that section of the track. And it seems to work out for Robert Miller, but Jonathan Delaney doing absolutely everything he can to try and get out in front of that number 10.
He's going to have to probably replicate the move he used on Cameron Stone a little while ago, where he actually overtook Cameron on turn 1 before they hit the dive down at turn 2, and that allowed Jonathan Delaney to get into that spot. Now, one difference you have here is Robert Miller is running considerably slower, partially because of the damage that he has taken so far in this race, as Delaney working to challenge again. Looks like he might try to get it, but Robert Miller holding on to that outside line. Is he able to keep it on the outside? Looks like for the moment that's exactly what he's going to be able to do. That back straight is very good.
And while that battle's going on, we also have a battle for second as contact between the leaders. Jonathan Delaney slides up into Robert Miller, and behind them, Adam Benefiel side by side with Cameron Stone. Battle's heating up all over the track. I said about 20 laps ago, we're going to see these guys bunch back up once the tire wear plateau hits. And man, seems like I was right, because this is battling from the front of this lead pack all the way to the back, separated by only a few thousandths in terms of lap time. And I got to wonder if that contact between the number 10 and the number 9 is a bit of a wake-up call, because we've seen from Robert Miller how much a little bit of bodywork damage can affect the handling of your car. As soon as he got that damage, that's when the 9 car started reeling him in. If the 9 does that too many more times, beats up his own car, that may put him at a disadvantage early against the rest of the championship contenders.
Pardon me, Mason, real quick. Benefiel has actually started to try the dive-down technique against Cameron Stone, taking over that 3 spot. And Cameron Stone, I want to see how aggressive he gets going after Delaney in that 2, as Benefiel's right on his bumper.
Yeah, we have battles developing all over the track here. Like you said, Andre, the tire wear is starting to come into play here. Lap 58. We are getting closer and closer to that stage end. Lap 75 is when we're going to see that caution come out for the end of stage 1 here. And Robert Miller, Jonathan Delaney, Cameron Stone, and Adam Benefiel are all duking it out here for the top 4 positions, and these guys are not letting up at all.
And I'll tell you what, things are getting real interesting here. We got another challenge for the lead from Jonathan Delaney. He got to the inside on the dog leg. Now he's going to be right down against that yellow line, but we've seen that 9 get loose and have to lift off the throttle. It happens again. Robert Miller fights back on the high side, and the further we get into the stage, the harder it's going to be for Delaney to make that move down low. Here he goes into turn 1, right by that inside retaining wall. Is he going to have to lift? Yeah, a little bit, but Robert Miller actually has to lift too. He started to get tight, so 2 drivers fighting opposite issues. The 9 is loose, the 10 is tight, both of them having to get off the throttle, but Jonathan Delaney with a slight advantage going into 3 and 4. This could be it, as no, he had to lift in the entrance of the corner and in the middle. That's going to give the lead back to the number 10. This is 2 drivers whose cars are not handling well at all. They are fighting these cars at every single turn, and yet they are staying within thousands of one another, constantly side by side.
Yeah,
Oh,
we have
Benefiel lost
action.
speed as well. Sorry.
Yeah, you said it there, Chris. Adam Benefiel seemed to get a little loose there, lost a bunch of time. Now he's fallen quite significantly behind Cameron Stone. He's about a second now behind the 57 of Cameron Stone, and we also have lap traffic developing in front of the number 10 of Robert Miller, so that's going to play into the favor, I think, of Jonathan Delaney. I think he's going to be kind of hoping for lap traffic to get in front of that number 10, slow him down a little bit, but it's also going to come at a cost, because is he also going to be able to work his way through the same lap traffic, because there's multiple cars that these guys are quickly coming up on.
Looking at the traffic, as mentioned, it's actually quite a bit that Benefiel has fallen behind the rest of the field. There's about a second between him and Cameron Stone, though. But Robert Miller, one thing I've noticed on a couple laps ago, and as things continue to turn between him and Delaney, yes, they're not handling well, neither of them. But also Robert Miller has resorted to also diving down into that infield spot that Delaney's done really well so far today. So that's something to keep an eye on as Delaney and Miller continue to battle it out for the 1 spot. And Benefield's dropped all the way back to, behind some of the lap traffic as well.
Yeah, Benefiel losing some pace. That could just be him playing it smart. I think he saw how intense things were getting up front and maybe told himself, hey, if these guys wreck and I'm right behind them, that means I'm going to be involved. So let's just take it easy and see where it is by the end of the stage. As we go 3 wide, the leader's getting around the lap traffic. The number 77, Dalton Mobley, doing everything he could. I mean, if you're Dalton Mobley in that situation, that's scary. You know, you're doing everything you can. You're moving up to the wall, giving the leaders room, but they're in a battle of their own. They're already 2 wide, so when they come by you and they make it 3 wide, boy, that is scary. But Dalton did a great job, as did the leaders. They got more lap cars in front of them. Here comes the number 78, who I believe is on fresher tires. He's going to drive around both of the leaders as if they were standing still, and that's the difference right there between old tires and new tires. Ladies and gents, but look at this. The faster car on better tires on the bottom, a slower car, and a caution. It consumes the speedway. We're not sure what happened yet. It looks like it's the tri-oval by the dog leg. It involves Tanner Noel and I believe one other driver, Tyler Pinsino. Let's see if we can dial up a 3-wide TV replay here, boys. See exactly what happened. Coming out of the turn 3 and 4. Just a little bit of contact between those two sends them. Ooh. Oh, that's a hard impact.
That's not ideal for those two, but what it does help is it helps everybody in the lead area of the grid get back with each other, and that also causes a cascade of cars headed to pit road as well. Robert Miller, Cameron Stone, Adam Benefiel all going there. Jonathan Delaney, for the moment, staying out. We'll see how long he decides on that. But it's a bit of strategy decision here as we're about halfway through this. No, we're about 10 laps left in this stage. I believe it's 75 we end the first stage at, if I'm not mistaken. And so that puts us to essentially a bit of an extended GWC to the end of the first stage.
that it does. And I'm also looking at our race analysis here, and according to the admins, they have 8 sets of tires. So uh, that's actually not that much, given how many cautions Phoenix has historically had. I mean, look at last season. I believe we had upwards of 7 or 8 yellow flags in that race. You could very easily mismanage your tires and use too many too quick. So these drivers are going to have to keep that in mind. And Jonathan Delaney, he's going to be at a bit of a disadvantage if he decides to stay out and he's on these older tires. Well, actually, a lot of a disadvantage, but not for long. I mean, you called it there, Chris. We're going to be on what we might as well consider an extended GWC. So we're going to be moving on to the next stage where John will be able to pit, and he'll be able to have those fresher tires. And then suddenly, the tables have turned. Now he's got fresher tires than anybody else by something to the tune of 15, 16 laps. And he's going to be able to use that to carve through the field. I mean, we already know how fast that 9 car is. Give him a tire advantage at the end of the stage, and yeah, that's going to be something to see.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see what Jonathan Delaney in the number 9 is going to be able to pull off here, having the oldest set of tires on the track next to, I believe, a Demars Hickenbottom and Tanner Noel are the only other drivers on the track that have not gone into pit road during this caution or in general during this race. These guys are all going to be on the same sets of tires, while the rest of the field, or the majority of the rest of the field, is going to be on those fresher set of tires. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting final few laps here. We are on lap 68. So we only have 7 laps to go here before we end this stage. So Jonathan Delaney definitely could make it work with only 7 laps, but he's definitely going to have a lot of competition around him, given that these guys are all going to be on fresher tires. So he's going to be kind of relying on draft, I think, just a little bit. But we'll see what that number 9 is going to be able to pull off here as we get ready to see the green flag come out once again.
I'm looking at the green flag coming up here, and who this is really going to benefit is one Bryson Hixsbaugh. He's the last of the 4 contenders for the championship right now, and he's sitting back in 13th. But with everybody gridded back up, you can start to maybe see him try to make a little bit of a move, start to work his way closer to the front. As long as he's careful with his advances, careful with his passes, he can get back up towards the leaders in this group, and can start getting on the bumper of Adam Benefiel, who's your next closest to him as far as the grid is concerned for contenders.
Absolutely. The pace car makes its probably earliest turn off pit road in the entire schedule, turning off at the exit of pit road practically. These drivers are going to pace through 3 and 4, and it's going to be up to John to decide where to go inside this Geico restart zone. And he's going to have older tires and a whole slew of drivers that have 4 fresh Goodyears behind him. It's going to be a game of defense. There he goes, coming out of turn 4. It's a really good jump for as old as those tires are in the number 9. He did not get any amount of wheel spin, and he is able to give himself a nice 3-car length gap to Robert Miller. But here we are in turn 1, and that gap is gone, fading away before his very eyes. As here goes Robert Miller, Adam Benefiel, and Cameron Stone lining up on the outside to try to get around him early on in the restart here. But we've only got about 5 laps to go in this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And you might think that Jonathan might be a little upset that he didn't take a fresh set of tires, but like you said, Andre, when you think about it in the long grand scheme of things, having only 8 sets of tires for a 312 lap race at a track that has been historically filled with cautions, I think Jonathan made the right move here in just taking it as a loss here for this final end of the stage here, as we only have 4 laps left to go here before we see the yellow flag come out for the end of the stage here, and Robert Miller and Adam Benefiel are out in front of the field. Robert Miller taking back his first place position and leading the field once again with Adam Benefiel and Cameron Stone behind him. Robert, again, having a very impressive start to the race. Let's see if that carries on into the second stage.
What I'm looking at, though, is you mentioned the amount of sets of tires we have and the amount of cautions we historically have here. If that was any indication, we had our first one at about the 65, 66 lap mark, and that puts us on pace to have roughly 5 cautions, which is considerably less than the norm here at Phoenix if things continue this way. We'll see what happens getting closer to the middle of the race as racers get a little bit more impatient, a little bit more comfortable with their surroundings. but that particular pace does not bode well to tire wear really in any circumstance, and there may be drivers that have to alter their pit strategy, thinking we may see those 7 or 8 cautions as you alluded to.
Absolutely. You got to think sometimes cautions in races are back end heavy. So, sometimes the race starts out one way and ends another. But we are on the white flag for this stage, and it looks like Robert Miller is going to have no competition from behind. He can take it easy for this lap. And Adam Benefiel not far behind him, but I don't think quite close enough to strike. Another driver that gained a lot of positions through this pit sequence, Dustin Hall in the #1 Jimmy Strong Chevrolet. He's broken into the top 5. And he is going to be right on Cameron Stone's bumper, but it's going to be a little bit too late to try to make the overtake as Robert Miller is going to win stage 1 here at Phoenix. Adam Benefiel second, and Cameron Stone third. Behind them, Dustin Hall, Brandon Pierce, Kevin Steele, Dave Few Jr. Bryson Hixsbaugh worked his way up to 8th from 13th on that restart. Ryan Samuelson and Lucas Weitzman are the top 10 for that stage. So, man, that was quite the eventful stage. I mean, we had 75 laps of racing where I don't think we saw the leaders get separated by any more than 2 seconds. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been quite the race here. Only having 1 caution come out before the stage caution here. I gotta say, 75 laps here around Phoenix. These guys were looking very, very impressive. We had changes happening throughout the field, and it seems to be once the tire wear happen, once we start to reach the plateau on the tire wear, like you said, Andre, the pack racing ensues, and I think that's where we start to see a little bit more of the kind of on the edge of your seat racing, if you will, as drivers make their way down pit road here and get ready to get a fresh set of good years and get ready to get back out on track here for the second stage the 100% Cup Series. And guys, it's been a very exciting one. We've had drivers all over the track duking it out for really any position that they possibly can, and the top 5, the top 10 really have been just exciting to watch here tonight.
So 80% of the field just pit on the break between stages, and we just had a caution 7-8 laps ago where again 80% of the field pit. Curious decision making is, who that really does not benefit is Jonathan Delaney, who ended up falling all the way back to 12th, which wasn't advantageous anyway, but now he's going to have almost half the grid to fight through when we get going for the start of this stage as well. But Bryson Hixsbaugh absolutely benefited from that, as he's now, along with Cameron Stone, your top 2 of the championship contenders. They're going to be 1-2 in the first row coming at the start of the second stage.
Absolutely. Real quick, we're going to try to have a word with our stage winner, Robert Miller. I'm going to see if I can't move him in here real quick. Robert Miller, you got a copy?
I got you. I was drinking something.
Well, Robert, I talked to a few of the drivers before the race, and it seemed like that 10 car was the one they pointed to when I asked them which car was going to be the one to beat. What's your secret out there right now, man?
Drive as hard as I can.
It's that simple, huh?
Last race of the year, I might as well get all I can.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like the lights are going to be going off on the pace car next time by, so sorry to keep it short. But, man, we've been pressed for time this entire broadcast. Anyways, Robert, keep it up, and hopefully we're talking to you again soon.
Appreciate you all. Have a good one.
All right, we're going to move him back to his team chat. You heard him. Drive it as fast as you can. It's the last race of the year, so why not? Also, to the viewers in chat, we got a new poll going up right there. How many cautions for cause do you think there's going to be tonight? Under 2, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, or 8+? I'm going to hope nobody votes for 8+, because I don't think we want to see that many cautions. But no. I'm going to put my vote right at 3 to 5. Chris, you hit the math right on the head, I think. With the rate that we were getting them, 3 to 5 sounds pretty reasonable.
Yeah, exactly. And you did say, though, something that made a lot of sense. You start to see more cautions towards the end of the race. We saw it last week at Bartonsville. We were running quite a bit less serene laps than we would like. But as we run into more tire wear, more impatience, especially among the championship contenders, you're going to start to see some desperation come through. And then you don't have anything. The biggest thing you have to fear is drivers with nothing to lose, and that is every other driver on this grid besides Benefiel, Stone, Delaney, and Hixsbaugh, who are no longer fighting for a championship. But the second stage, this is going to be we're going to start to see these guys throw haymakers, I think, as everybody starts to get a little bit looser, a little bit faster, and everybody's mentality is bared for everyone to see.
Absolutely, as Bryson Hixsbaugh and Cameron Stone go side by side. Pace car is in the pit road, and drivers are going to be ready for that green flag to come out. They're making their way through turns 3. Going to come out of 4 onto the front stretch, and away we go. Cameron Stone with the launch. Lucas Hoytsma able to pull it out side by side with Bryson Hixsbaugh, taking that same low line as Cameron Stone. These drivers are going to follow it single file from the top 3, but Cameron Stone taking out an impressive lead here. We have drivers going side by side all over the place. We have 2 wide, 3 wide, just depends on where you're looking through the field. And my, oh my, Cameron Stone still able to keep out in front of the rest of the field here as Lucas Hoytsma and Adam Benefiel going to duke it out side by side nearly for second place. Guys, we have action brewing all over the track here tonight.
Watching Jonathan Delaney right now, he is making tracks between him and Preston McRae in the 9th spot right now. Robert Miller, the first stage winner, has fallen all the way back to 8th, but again, Jonathan Delaney, the last of the 4 contenders right now, and the very back of the field as far as those contenders are concerned. And so watch for him to make some moves and get up towards the front, I think probably before we hit the pit window in the second stage.
Absolutely. But look at this number 1, guys. Dustin Hall in the Jimmy Strong Chevrolet. He's going to make the move for 3rd. He's been working his way through the field all night long. And let me tell you guys, a lot of these guys are in it for the championship. You got Cameron Stone, Bryson Hixsbaugh, Adam Benefiel, John Delaney. These guys are in it for the title. But nobody, and I'm telling you, nobody wants this win more than Dustin Hall, because he wants to win it for Jimmy. He wants to bring this one home for him and his family in support of them in this really difficult time that they're going through. And so, you know, you take a guy who's already really good and you give him this much motivation. You give him a race that means so much to him and his family, and he's going to do everything that it takes. And that's what he's doing so far. He's been driving the wheels off that thing, putting on one of the best performances that I've seen in weeks. And he always does good, but this is just next level. How many cars he's been able to pass and currently running down the leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. Dustin Hall reeling in the 57 of Cameron Stone, getting closer and closer, nearly a half a second separating them himself and that number 57. Dustin Hall doing absolutely impressive here tonight. And yeah, you know, you give someone the motivation like that to come out here and win a race, even if you're not in it necessarily for the points, it definitely can give you some I guess some skills that you didn't think that you possessed before. And Dustin Hall is definitely proving that here tonight in the second stage as he is getting closer and closer to the number 57. Going to be putting some pressure on the second place position of Cameron Stone currently. And yeah, that number 1 is looking very solid out there currently. He's got quite a bit of distance between himself and Brandon Pierce and the rest of the field. So that number 1 machine is going to be looking to stay out in the top 5 here for as long as he possibly can, and possibly put out a win here.
Adam Benefiel currently is making better lap times than anyone else in the top 4, however, so look for him to continue to put some distance between him and second place. There's about 9/10 of a second between him and Cameron Stone right now. That was just 6/10 about half a lap ago, so he's really driving this car as hard as he can, getting as much distance. And Jonathan Delaney now up to 6 on your update right around the casting booth, as Delaney is running real good in that middle of that pack.
And I like that move I just saw out of Cameron Stone. The number 1 got a huge run going into the corner, and it looked like he was going to be able to at least make an attempt at position. And I think Cam looked at that and he thought, you know, I could spend 3 laps battling him. But at the same time, I'm looking at my windshield. I see that 83 driving off with the lead right now. And if I spend time battling with somebody, well, that's just going to slow us both down. That's not going to serve me at all. You take into account that the number 1 isn't in it for the championship. It's not much of a loss for him to get around the 57. Yeah, I would say give up the position, get back single file, and go back to trying to hit your marks and run down this 83. And that's the kind of racing you're going to see in an event like this, where every second matters, where every little decision you make could be the title, could be the championship. You're going to see a lot of these drivers just trying to play it smart.
And real quick, Mason, sorry to cut you off. The biggest thing with with Cameron Stone just kind of deferring to Dustin Hall there. Cameron Stone's not worried about Dustin Hall. Not even a little bit. There's only 3 other racers on this grid that he is worried about right now, and one of them's in front of him in that 83 car. So absolutely, I think Andre hit that right on the head, where he is more focused on who's in the front spot of this grid rather than who's just in front of him right now.
Yeah, you guys are definitely right there, and I think we see it time and time again in these races with all of these drivers here, especially drivers that have been competing in points, have been consistently trying to stay out in the front of the field. We'll see that quite often. Drivers who have maybe guys who are faster behind them, that they just want to let them get around, so that way they don't have to worry about duking it out side by side for 3, 4, 5 laps, however long that it lasts, because like you guys said, it can put you out of the race. It can definitely ruin your chances at winning a series like this. And I think Cameron Stone definitely played it smart there, just trying to stay out as high in the front of the field as he possibly can. He's in 4th place, so he's not going to be hurting too bad, but now he's got Brandon Pierce in the 38 behind him. He's going to be putting some pressure on him as well. So it's one of those things where, you can definitely let the guy behind you by, but it's also going to come at a cost. Are you going to let every single driver that's faster than you work their way around you? Absolutely not, especially in the case of Cameron Stone, who wants to come out here tonight and win this race and possibly win the series.
Real quick, as we go forward, we are about halfway through the pit window that we saw in stage number 1. Everyone pit at lap 66 when the caution came out. We're at about 33 right now in this particular stage, so look for things to continue to deteriorate as far as tire wear as things continue to get forward in the second stage.
And look at who's challenging the 57 for that 5th position. Jonathan Delaney has finally worked his way back towards the front of the field, but he's still got a long ways to go. I mean, that's 1 down, but he's still got 1 more to go. And that 83 is out front, currently dominating, getting one of the biggest leads that we've seen so far tonight. And John, we know he's got the long run speed, but it's a pretty big gap right now. I mean, just as the 83 is in the middle of the dog leg, the number 9 is coming out of turn 4. So quite a ways to go and a handful of cars to pass. I mean, he's got to get around Brandon Pierce in that 38, Robert Miller in the number 10, and Dustin Hall. And that is absolutely stout competition. So it's going to have to be a game of patience for the number 9. And the question is, can he do it? John is kind of an enigma. Sometimes he shows the most patience out of anybody in the field. And then sometimes you'd think he never heard the word patience. You never know what to expect out of Jonathan Delaney. But right now, what I'm expecting is for him to continue this long run speed and try to do exactly what he did in stage 1, which is run down the leaders.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Andre. And, I think the thing that plays in the favor of Jonathan so much and so well is the fact that he does have patience. When he's not being pressured, when he's not having guys kind of giving him a hard time on the track like we saw last week a few times, it definitely plays into the mindset a little bit. But when Jonathan is patient, when he's in the right mindset, I think that is definitely what helps him in these long runs. And I think that's what's going to help him work his way through the field as we work our way through stage 2. And it seems to play in his favor time and time again, even when he does seem to be put down a little bit and kind of put down the grid a little bit further than he would like to be. He still manages to find a way to find a groove and find a place on the track to give himself plenty of speed, and just consistency it always works in Jonathan's favor most of the time, but he's just got to stay focused and keep that number 9 straight and true. And so far, up to 4th place from where he was, I believe, P12 at the stage caution restart. So Jonathan's going to be looking very promising here, especially as we get closer and closer to that plateau of the tire wear.
And talking about Delaney, you mentioned the patience that he's shown and how good that mentality is for him in long runs. That's exactly what we saw at Martinsville. We saw him with a very patient mentality. He even got contacted twice on his rear quarter panel by Bryson Hixsbaugh, put him up the track a little bit towards the wall. He was able to keep it together, didn't do anything to retaliate against Hixsbaugh, didn't do anything to show any extra aggressiveness. He just raced his race and ended up at the front of the pack because of it. it was a very good race for him last week to show what he can do with an eased mindset, and that's the same mindset we see from him today. Just very patient and very careful in his passes. You can't win the race on lap 102, and then Delaney knows that.
Yeah, you definitely can't. We keep talking about patience, and it's for good reason. I think this is a race where it matters more than any other race in the entire series. Because right now, if you make one mistake, that's it. You can't come back from that. There is no next week. There's no, we're going to come back next week and roll it off the hauler and win. All there is this race and this checkered flag and this trophy. So you have to make sure that when it's time to claim that checkered flag, you're still around to do so. And so these guys are going to be playing it smart, but at the same time, it's a balancing act. They say there's balance in all things, and I think that makes sense because they got to be aggressive too. You can't take it too easy because, well, then you give the competition a huge advantage that you may not be able to overcome late in the race. So you got to be aggressive, but at the same time, you got to be smart. So it's a difficult thing for these guys to figure out, but they've done a phenomenal job of it because so far everybody has been doing pretty much, I think, everything they want to do. They're running their lines, they're hitting their marks, they're taking it easy, but they're also, when you look at Jonathan Delaney, he's being smart, but he's also doing what he needs to do, getting up through the field, all the way back from, I think you mentioned 13th is where he started on that restart. So, yeah, things have been going really well for a lot of these playoff drivers. The question is it maybe too well? Is this the calm before the storm? I mean, you look at last year and the chaos that broke out between the championship contenders in the final stage. What do you guys think? Does this get a little bit crazier as the laps wind down?
Well, historically we've seen in stage 3, that's when drivers start to let things loose and put the pedal to the metal and really see what their cars can actually do. And given that things have been relatively quiet thus far, lap 106 to 312, I believe our next stage caution is, I believe it was 175 or 150, 190. 190 is the correct number for that. My apologies. But so we're still quite a bit away, a ways away from our next stage. So it's really going to be tough to say what we're going to see for that final stage. But I think what we're going to see for the rest of this second stage here, it's going to be a lot of these guys are going to really want to challenge each other to place themselves in the best spot for stage 3. And as we've seen already, once these guys reach that plateau of tire wear, these guys are going to get closer and closer to one another and kind of see that pack racing. And I think that's where we're going to start to see things kind of get a little wild, so to speak. What do you think, Chris?
I think the pack racing mentality, I think, is going to be exactly what happens. But I think Adam Benefiel is doing a really good job right now as far as showing what happens when you separate yourself from that pack and have nothing but clean air around you. As he's completely content with everybody pack racing behind him as long as he's at the front of that pack. Robert Miller has taken over the second spot from Dustin Hall as well and owns about a half-second lead on him for that second position. That's something to keep in mind, as Robert Miller's has one of the better cars out on track today, and Jonathan Delaney has moved ahead of is battling Dustin Hall for that 3 spot. So we're going to have 2 of the top 3 if Delaney, or two of the 4 contenders in the top 3 positions, if Delaney can hold off Dustin Hall and take this 3rd spot.
Yeah, it's going to be he's going to have to play some defense here because that number 9 is charging. I mean, yeah, there it is. He gets clear through the dog leg. I got to wonder, what does Jonathan Delaney do for this pit stop coming up? Because Stage 2 is a little bit longer than Stage 1. It comes out to about 115 laps, which is well beyond what we saw in Stage 1. It is certainly beyond a fuel run. So they're going to have to pit. The option of staying out isn't really there. It's just going to be a question of when do you pit. Do you take the undercut? Do you take the overcut? I know when I was talking to Adam Benefiel before the race, he was saying he thought that the majority of drivers were going to prioritize the undercut and taking tires, especially early on. And, if we weren't getting a lot of cautions, he thought, yeah, if we only get a handful of yellows and they're not super frequent, you're going to see a lot of undercuts. So, also, one quick update on Sean O'Brien Jr. He made his way down pit road. I'm not sure if we cut it on the broadcast, but he made his way down pit road a little bit ago, and he just put in the driver's chat, "Sorry for the sudden pit. My wheel started smoking in real life." So, A real-life mechanical failure, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, an electrical failure happening in real life for these sim racers is definitely a real thing. It's definitely not something that you want to see happen in front of you in the middle of a race. Hopefully Sean O'Brien Jr. is going to be able to recover from that and hopefully figure out the issue relatively soon and get back in the race. But if things are smoking, I have a feeling that his wheel might be done for. So we'll see what happens for Sean O'Brien Jr. here. But man, oh man, we still have a lot of racing happening here. And guys, I gotta say, Adam Benefiel seems to be taking it away right now. And Robert Miller and Jonathan Delaney, they're just kind of just following behind one another, just trying to catch up as much as they possibly can. It's really interesting to see what I'm curious to see what's going to happen here as we get later and later in the stage here.
Jonathan Delaney moved into within 0.4 of a second of Robert Miller, and he continues to charge his way forward, trying to catch up to that number 10 car, who's had a very good race. Bryson Hixsbaugh still has stayed right about that middle of the pack. He's in the 7th position at the moment, and that is, and then Cameron Stone is the one in front of him in the 6th spot.
And it seems like we're going to hear it from the man himself. What exactly happened with the wheel? Sean O'Brien Jr. is in the infield care center. We're going to run down and have a word with him. Sean O'Brien, you got a copy?
Hi.
Well, Sean, we saw the interesting drivers chat. We were actually just talking about that on the broadcast. What's going on with the wheel, man?
Andre, I wish I could tell you. I was just putting around, I'll admit, not the best car. And I just see smoke start coming out of my wheel. Now, I'm no fireman, but I know that smoke isn't a good thing. So I made sure to pull over. I might get a penalty for an unsafe pit entrance, but
Oh, caution.
Oh, looks like we had a caution on this speedway. Sorry to cut you off there, Sean. Looks like Ryan Samuelson involved on this straightaway, and everybody else gets away unscathed. But anyways, back to you, Sean. Are we talking like a little bit of smoke, or are we talking like a plume of smoke? What are we looking at?
It wasn't quite losing a cylinder, but my theory right now is one of the belts was burning somehow. I'm gonna wait for this to cool down and take a look. But it is the darndest thing I've ever seen in my life. But silver lining, I was in the market for a new wheel anyway, so Christmas gets to come early, I guess, in the Brian household.
It's not every day you see a real-life fire in sim racing, but glad everything's all right, Sean, that it didn't go any further than it did. And yeah, hopefully that kind of helps you get a new wheel maybe, and gets you in gear for that. But we thank you for your time, Sean. We're gonna see what goes on pit road and continue on. But yeah, hopefully you can get your car back out on track, and good luck, man.
I don't know about getting back on track without a wheel. Yeah. But thank you. Enjoy the race. Look forward. It's gonna be a good race. It's gonna be a good top 4. See y'all later.
See you later, Sean. Playing it safe, maybe not wanting to go back out on track with a burning wheel. I understand. That's I would probably do the same thing. But everybody making their way down pit road, and I'll tell you what, guys, Chris, Mason, this should put them good to the end of the stage. It'll be a little close, but I think from here they should be set. They're gonna have to do a little bit of conservation though. We are. Let's see, what lap are we on? We're on lap 119. It'll be 120 when they cross the line next time, and that'll be, yeah, that's a solid number of laps to the end, and they're going to have to take care of these tires.
Only one that doesn't look like they're pitting right at the moment is that of the 78 David Duke. Jason Taylor also has not. His last pit was at 107, so he might stay out as well. But David Duke in that 19 spot right now, the 78 car, he may be the only one on the lead lap and further that does not come in as we see everybody get back out on top. And right away, you see the top 3 that were already the top 3, Benefiel, Miller, and Delaney, come back out. Very good pit stops for them, as with 4 fresh tires, and we go from there.
And in the meantime, looks like we're going to have a couple of drivers taking the wave around, Patrick Much among them. So he did get back out on track after fixing up some of that damage in that incident earlier on with Robert Miller. So good to see him back out there. This is interesting. I think this kind of threw a wrench in a lot of these drivers' plans because with John, he's got such good long run speed. I think he was going to try to use the length of this stage to his advantage. And now that's kind of taken away from him. That rug has been swept out from under his feet because that caution came out. Everybody got fresh tires. And now for the perceivable future, you're going to have drivers like Adam Benefiel, Robert Miller, using that short run speed. Even Dustin Hall, he's got a lot of short run speed as well. All of these guys a little bit better in that, I would say, 30 to 40 lap bracket than Jonathan Delaney. And they're going to be able to use that to their advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be rather interesting to see what Jonathan Delaney is going to be able to do here. Being in third place on this restart, you know, Jonathan might not be in the most opportunistic spot to be able to make a pass here early on, but given that he's got quite the impressive start speeds on these restarts, as we only have one lap left to green, it's going to be very interesting to watch Jonathan try and make a pass here and just try and make something happen and be able to get out in front of the field. He's got Adam Benefiel and Robert Miller are going to be the two guys that are, I think, going to give him the most trouble. But Dustin Hall as well, he's looking quite promising here in this race as lights go off on the pace car and we get ready to see the green flag come out once again.
Benefiel, Miller, Hall, 1, 2, 3. Jonathan Delaney has moved back into the 4 spot. So outside row 2, we'll see what kind of what kind of restart he gets, and really what kind of restart Adam Benefiel gets. He's been very good at restarts so far that we've seen him, and so we'll see how he does and how he fares on this particular one. But I'm interested to see where Hixsbaugh ends up at the end of the first couple laps, as he's working in between 7 and 8 right now, and I'm excited to find out how aggressive he wants to be. As the Robert Miller, you see, go real low on the inside, but he's not going to be able to get that front spot away from Adam Benefiel.
Not quite yet. Looks like the front end of that number 10 actually washed up in the corner again. So I gotta wonder if he gets himself thing. Could be the reason he's so fast on the short run. It's just he's got to get the line just right. Otherwise, some of the setups that are fast can be very finicky, and they kind of demand that you're on a very specific line. And if you miss it, they can definitely step out from under you. So curious to see what the 10 does going forward, if he maybe makes some adjustments. But right now, the car looking at least fast, if not a little unstable. Dustin Hall side by side with Jonathan Delaney. He's going to pull back out on the outside lane, get third place back from him, while his teammate Adam Benefiel up there is going to continue to lead the way as he's done for the majority of stage 2. And behind Jonathan Delaney, you got Cameron Stone and Bryson Hixsbaugh pretty much bumper to bumper. And it looks like right now on the short run, this 57 may be a little bit quicker than the 9. So the problem with this now for a lot of these guys is that we are in a huge pack right now. We've got 6 or 7 cars under a blanket. If you're going to make a move, it's not necessarily just about passing one car, because you might just find yourself side by side with another guy as soon as you make that pass. So I think if you're Cam, if you're John, you got to wait for the right moment here.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and the other thing too about trying to make a pass when you are not too sure of where other drivers are around you, you might find yourself in a spot on the track where you're out of the draft, and the guys on the outside of you or the inside of you, the guys that are in the draft, they're going to pass you like a freight train, and it's very, very difficult to try and recover from that, as you're not going to be, the guys are not going to let you back into the line ever so gracefully. They're going to fight you for it. And it's just one of those things, like you said, Andre, you have to be patient. You have to wait for the perfect time to make these overtakes and make it play in your favor. And a lot of these guys seem to be doing that quite well, just playing it safe, waiting for the right time before they try and make any sort of pass here, as Dustin Hall is actually going to be out in front of Jonathan Delaney. Not too surprised by that, as Dustin Hall here, I think, is on a mission here to get out in first place and win tonight.
Bryson Hixsbaugh trying to make a pass at Cameron Stone, but Cameron Stone plays some nice defense there. Cameron Stone's been going back and forth with Jonathan Delaney as well. Got a lot of good racers in that 3, 4, 5, 6 range right now. 3 of the 4 contenders, 4, 5, 6, as Jonathan Delaney is in front of that particular pack with Benefiel up front. Hixsbaugh, though, is kind of my wild card, and to see where he ends up, I think this is the spot where he starts to try to put a move on and get up in front. But this is This is Cameron Stone's area too. Cameron's been very good at closing down that defense and trying to catch up to Jonathan Delaney. Delaney's been running considerably higher than the rest of, or on the track than the rest of the cars in this part of the race. So this is a spot for him to either play some defense or get out of the way so Cameron Stone can go underneath him.
Yeah, I think that's a conscious decision by John. We saw in stage 1, he tried to make a lot of overtake attempts down on the bottom, and every single time he did, that car got loose and he had to counter steer it, and that is never something you want to be doing in this car. It's a very scary thing when you have to try to correct that. So running the higher line, the car probably feels a little bit more stable, might be a little bit more grip up where that PJ1 is, so probably a little bit more comfortable. Maybe not as fast, but definitely more comfortable because he's not getting sideways like he was. And it also has the added benefit of taking Cam's line away from him all night long. We've seen Cam really work that high line, whether he's using it to pass somebody or to keep somebody from passing him. He's used it to his advantage time and time again. But with John running up there, suddenly there's nowhere to go. So if he's going to do anything, he's got to run the bottom, which is a lane that he's maybe not too familiar with.
Yeah, and it seems whenever Cam does try and take that low line and make it work in his favor, he just is not able to maintain the same amount of speed that Jonathan Delaney is able to carry. And that's definitely going to hurt the 57 of Cameron Stone. It's not going to work out for him. And he's going to be fighting that car. He's going to be trying to figure out what's going to work for him to make that car a little bit faster and be able to put the pressure on Jonathan Delaney, who's also going to be doing the same thing because Dustin Hall is also another very, very fast car here tonight. And a lot of these cars here, we've mentioned it quite a few times here already, a lot of these cars are looking rather loose. And it's as the race has progressed on, it seems these guys have kind of fixed that here a little bit. These cars are looking a little bit more stable. I almost wonder if some drivers made some changes in pit road during the stage restarts or just during the cautions in general. But yeah, Cameron Stone definitely is going to be trying to do whatever he possibly can to catch up to the number 9 of Jonathan Delaney here tonight.
That he will. Jonathan Delaney, although he is getting a little bit more pace, he's closing in on the number 1 and the 57, starting to fall back ever so slightly. So we got kind of this second group forming behind our initial 2 leaders. And I think as the number 9 and the number 1 start to battle, which is probably going to happen imminently, that's going to give the 57 and the 63 another opportunity to close in. We saw it about halfway through the last run there where everybody started to close back in because that's what happens. They hit this tire wear plateau. They start battling with one another, and that just gives everybody the chance to try to close in. And I think we're going to see that again, and it's going to be a pretty hard battle for all these guys because we're getting closer to the end. You know, it's starting to matter a little bit more now where you run and what track position you're able to maintain than it did perhaps back in stage 1. So things definitely heating up from third on back, but up front, it's a totally different show. You know, we're watching almost a different race entirely because you've got Adam Benefiel and Robert Miller. And whereas everybody else is pushing their car and they're getting sideways and they look out of control every time they enter the corner, and you can tell they're just fighting so hard. These 2 guys, they look comfortable. That 83 is on rails, as is the number 10, and they have both given themselves a comfortable advantage over the cars behind. So, yeah, they're kind of playing a different game, I think, than the rest of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Between the 9 and the 1, that's the one I'm looking at right now. And then there he is, trying to get the inside off the dive down. It didn't quite work the way Delaney wanted, but that's a tight window. Can he keep it going into the straight is the big question.
Yeah, absolutely. Jonathan Delaney going to be trying to do whatever he can to get around Dustin Hall in that number 1 machine. Doesn't quite have the speed to make it work this turn around, but give it a couple more. And I think Jonathan Delaney will be able to make that pass happen as he is right on that bumper of that number 1 machine. So Jonathan Delaney and Dustin Hall are going to be duking it out for P3 currently. And Jonathan has quite the field behind him as well. Cameron Stone and Bryson Hixsbaugh in 5th and 6th respectively. These guys are going to be trailing just behind them. So we're going to be seeing these guys, I think, bunch up here rather quickly, as you can see on your screen there, just barely. These guys are getting closer and closer here as we get ever and ever closer. 50 laps left to go here before the end of our second stage here today. And yeah, these guys are going to be fighting hard as Jonathan Delaney was able to take that low line and get into third, but is he going to be able to retain it as Dustin Hall still on the outside? Quite a bit of speed there. These guys are going to be fighting, I think, for quite some time for P3 here, but Jonathan Delaney able to get out in front of Dustin Hall, and I think that fight has just concluded.
Yeah, exactly. That was a really, really good fight. Dustin Hall gave it everything he had in that straight, trying to use as much speed as he can on that outside line, but that inside line is too powerful, and Delaney's car is just too fast to be able for Dustin Hall to be able to do that. Now you have to look at Cameron Stone maybe catching up to Dustin Hall. There's only 0.2 of a second between him and Hall, and that would put, if he's able to overtake 3 of the competitors for the championship, in the top 4 positions.
And what I kind of predicted is kind of playing out right now. These guys bunched up a lot after the number 9 started battling with the number 1. You got Bryson Hixsbaugh, Cameron Stone, Dustin Hall. These guys are nearly 3 wide through the corner, fighting for this 4th position that Dustin Hall currently has. The 63 really coming to life late into this run, so maybe showing some of that long run speed that we've been seeing out of the number 9 all night as well. So that could be something to follow along with as these guys continue to duke it out. Jonathan Delaney, on the other hand, he is checked out, and he is actually running down the leaders. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe John is the fastest car on the track. Last time around, John ran a 27.570. Both of our leaders ran a 27.6, so he is a little bit quicker, and that's in dirty air. And he's got the leaders in front of him. That's going to affect his handling. So, yeah, this number 9 is absolutely on rails. I don't think it's going to be too long before he gets up there. The question is, though, is he going to be able to make the move before the end of the stage and get that track position? Because we're already on lap 143. Stage 2 is going to come to a close at lap 190, meaning he's only going to have about 30 laps. If it takes him another 7 laps to get to them, that'll leave him about 30 laps to try to make a move. And we've seen just how long it takes to try to set up an overtake and how long some of these battles have gone on. Earlier in the race, I mean, we saw the 9 and the 57 side by side for upwards of 15 to 20 laps. So that'll be really fun to see. Also, the poll in chat has concluded, and the winning result was 3 to 5 cautions, with 58% of the votes according to the viewers, with a total of 12 votes. Under 2 got 16%, and that's already out the window, as we've had 2 cautions for cause exactly. And 5 to 7 did get 16% of the votes, and 8 plus actually got 8%. So some of the viewers may be expecting a little bit of chaos later in this event. We'll have to see if that pans out or if it comes true. But for right now, everything pretty single file, pretty calm, relatively. And of course, relative is not necessarily the best, but yeah, everything fairly calm for these guys.
Yeah, everything is looking calm currently. And like you said, Andre, you know, Jonathan's going to be reeling these guys in the top 2, and that's going to be Adam Benefiel and Robert Miller. Jonathan's closing that gap rather quickly between himself and Robert Miller. And I think this battle here for second and possibly even first place is going to happen sooner than we might think here. Whether or not he's going to be able to pull it off before the end of this second stage, that's still kind of up in the air. I think it seems to be that Jonathan's going to need a few more laps than I initially kind of predicted while you were talking about it earlier, to be able to catch up to these guys. But he's looking very solid out there. Even in the dirty air, he's looking quite impressive, pulling in that number 10 of Robert Miller quicker and quicker each turn.
Looking at averaging a caution every 59 laps right at the moment. So that's something to keep an eye on. But also, we're getting into about almost three quarters of the way through the tire wear window. Maybe a little better than half. Either way, that's something to keep an eye on as you see lap time start to creep up towards the 28-second mark. That's something to watch as these guys continue to press their cars. And you see Adam Benefiel, who's been more or less able to take it easy for the most part. Hasn't had any lap traffic to deal with. He's considerably ran better than a majority of the field, from lap to lap, and has been the most consistent car since the second stage has started. Jonathan Delaney's been fast, but he's been pushing it, trying to get up towards the front of the pack. So we'll see how well he can keep it and how well he can adjust going into the third stage. Especially if we get another caution, that could really upend things and put people like Bryson Hixsbaugh back on the hunt.
It absolutely could, and I'm surprised at how this lead pack is kind of separating. When I saw the number 9 reeling the leaders in the way that he was, I figured he'd be there in just a handful of laps, but really it's kind of stalled out a little bit here. It's lap 150, and he has not even got around the number 10 yet. In fact, he's really kind of struggling in this dirty air now with the lap times falling off a little bit. So each lap that goes by is a lap that he's not going to have available to him in the stage to try to make something happen. So he's kind of riding in third. Adam Benefiel seems to have found something for the long run. I mean, we are getting into a long run. That 83 is looking pretty solid. A lot better on the long run than in stage 1. Back in stage 1, he kind of fell off as stage went on. Not this time. So the dynamics are changing. Some of that could also be track temp. I'm noticing a little bit more cloud cover here and there. That, the sun's not shining quite as bright at certain parts of the track as it was earlier. And that's one thing to mention, guys, is the track temperature fluctuates so much at Phoenix. It can be one of the hottest tracks on the service, and then you get a cloud that rolls in, and suddenly it's a little bit more bearable. You get a little bit more grip. The car changes completely. And a lot of these guys, when they were building the setups, they had no idea what to plan for, because every session they loaded into for Phoenix, we were seeing variances of up to 16 degrees difference from session to session.
I think that can be definitely quite the challenge to accommodate for. Coming into a race like this and having that kind of put at your feet and having that to work around, it definitely can pose quite the challenge. And I think that is part of the reason why we might be seeing a lot of these guys kind of struggling a little bit with these cars, kind of bobbing and weaving through the track, if you will. And that's just something that these guys have to work on the fly. You don't really have, you can't accommodate for everything. There's no way for anyone to predict, I guess, the best setup for these races. You kind of just go into it with the best amount of knowledge that you possibly can, and hopefully come away with a win, or just with whatever you possibly can, whatever you're trying to achieve. But yeah, I think that's definitely going to come into play for a lot of these guys here that might be struggling with their setups a little bit more than usual, as Jonathan Delaney has now worked his way up to the number 10 of Robert Miller, getting on the door of that number 10 for just a moment, finding his way back behind the number 10, going to follow in that draft just a little bit more as the battle progresses on for P2.
Yeah, the reason Delaney couldn't actually make that move, he got a little bit of loose coming out of one of those turns, and he had an issue keeping it straight. He lost some speed there to Robert Miller, who over the last couple laps has run into some issues being able to keep his speed, and that's the reason why Delaney was able to catch up in a pretty small amount of time. So watch for Delaney to try to take advantage of a Robert Miller mishap here, and also the other way, Robert Miller could try to put some separation from him and Delaney if Delaney slips up again. But right now, the better car of those two is absolutely John Delaney with lap traffic coming up.
Absolutely, and we just passed our halfway mark back at lap 156, 1 lap ago. So I'd say now is probably a pretty good time for a through the field. Let's take a look through our top 10, see how everybody's nights are going so far, and I'll start it out with our leader, Adam Benefiel, in that number 83 Jimmy Strong Chevrolet. In stage 1, he showed a lot of speed, didn't quite lead the laps that he was probably expecting to lead, but then stage 2 came along, and whatever he found with this setup, it's been good for him, because he's led the majority of stage 2, even with the caution splitting things up. And that Jimmy Strong Chevrolet may be one of the best cars on the track right now.
And in second place, Robert Miller in the number 10 machine. We saw have an impressive start of the race, leading quite, I believe, the majority of the laps for the first stage here, finding himself in P2 for the second stage here, doing a very impressive job, able to stay out in front of one of the series leaders here, Jonathan Delaney in the number 9 machine. Robert doing an absolutely fantastic job here at Phoenix.
You're talking about Jonathan Delaney. He had a great start to the race in the first stage, was up with the leaders, and then towards the tail end decided to stay out under caution at lap 66. Ended up falling back to P12 or 13 before the stage ended, and has spent the entirety of the second stage getting back up towards the front of the race. He's been between 2 and 3 as far as positions the last few laps, and but he's got to get past a very pesky Robert Miller here and there have been plenty of opportunities to do so. We'll see if he can do it on this takeover on the inside before he starts to hunt down Adam Benefiel, but I think it's just inevitable that Delaney takes over that second spot.
And looking back to fourth place, it's the defending champion Cameron Stone, put in a lot of practice for this race. You heard in the interview, he's really been putting in time and work trying to get this track down. It is a new scan of the track, a little bit different from the last time he came here and won. So he's going to be doing everything he can to try to get this championship. And so far, he's running really well. Maybe not the fastest car on track, but in a race like this where it's winner take all and you have these stages punching everybody up every now and again, I think just being in contention, being in the top 5 is absolutely one of the most important things you can do. Cam's doing a good job for that. So as the race goes on and the dynamics start to change, I would keep an eye on this 57.
Absolutely. And speaking of top 5, rounding out the top 5, the 63 of Bryson Hixsbaugh has done an absolutely fantastic job here tonight. He has not been able to stay out in front of the field as quite often as I was predicting towards the beginning of the race here, but in 5th position currently. He is going to be trying to see what he can do here going into stage 3 and hopefully be able to compete with the for the top 5 positions here and maybe even win tonight's race.
Before we get on to Brandon Pierce, just a note that we have all 4 contending drivers for the championship in the top 5 positions of this race so far. Again, doesn't matter where they finish, but as long as you finish ahead of all of the other of one of those competing drivers, you will win the championship. Brandon Pierce, on the other hand, sitting back in 6th. He has not had a bad race at all. Currently running a 26.5 on lap time, so I'm very excited for him on that. Good stuff. And he's running up with the leaders for the most part as far as latest lap times, and not letting the tires really get to him. He's run a pretty steady race. He's got about a half second between him and Dustin Hall right now, and Dustin Hall himself has had a good car. So Brandon Pierce, we haven't talked about him a whole lot, but as things start to get later into this race, is he going to have an impact on the rest of this field?
And looking back to 7th place, you got Dustin Hall in that number 1, another Jimmy Strong Chevrolet. He's one of the fastest cars in the field when it comes to the short run. You get these restarts, and that number 1 jumps up through the field, passing cars like nobody's business. It's on the long run that car starts to fade away, and he loses a little bit of speed. So he's got another opportunity. We're going to have the stage coming up at lap 190. He can bring it down pit road, make some adjustments, maybe try to find that long run speed that some of the competitors have. And if he can do that, he will be absolutely unstoppable.
And in 8th place, Kevin Steele in the number 24 machine, another driver that we have not spoken too much about here tonight, but working his way up 15 positions from where he started tonight. Kevin Steele is going to be looking quite promising, especially going into stage 3, going to be able to put on a little bit of pressure on the rest of the field, being in the top 10. So Kevin Steele is going to be looking to try and put out a solid race for himself tonight and maybe even get in the top 5 before the end of the race.
And Lucas Holtzman in the 9th spot currently. He's running about half a lap behind your leader, Adam Benefiel, at this point. Just hasn't been able to keep the speeds through the turns, through the straights that a lot of the other leaders have at this point. He's still running a top 10. He's had a pretty solid race all told, keeping everybody else like Randy Drumhiller, Preston McRae, Damaris Hickenbottom, and others behind him. But he's definitely has some improving to do as far as his routing goes, and just maybe fighting it through some of those turns, some of those straights, and keeping the speed.
Rounding out your top 10 is going to be Randy Drumhiller in that number 44. This is a driver who all season long, he's done a great job of just consistently being inside the top 10. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're running in the top 10 in a group of guys like this where you know the talent level is so high, then you're doing something right. And Drumhiller's had a really great season for himself. He's missed very few races. Every time he showed up, he's at least raced in the top 10, if not finished there. And it looks like he's looking to finish out his season the same way that he's ran it all year long, and that is with a solid, consistent run.
And in 11th place, Preston McRae in the number 53 machine, looking very impressive tonight here as well. Preston has worked his way up 7 positions from where he started. The number 53 machine is not one that we have spoken about too much here tonight, as he has kind of found himself in his lonesome, not able to work his way into any packs at the moment. But as we get closer and closer to wrapping up stage 2 here, I think Preston is going to find himself in some opportunistic spots to be able to work his way through the field even a little bit more and maybe even get his way into the top 10.
Speaking of getting to the second stage, we got about 19 laps to go before that becomes a thing, and we're also getting to the end of the fuel window for a lot of these cars that pit at lap 118 at the last caution. So things are getting down to the last reserves of fuel in some cases, and then you also have to think about the fact that these cars are going to weigh considerably less with less fuel in that tank. So things could start to get loose for those faster cars coming out of those really rough turns, especially those that could dive down into the bottom area.
I absolutely could. Right now, I'm watching the 8th place car, and I'm kind of focusing on him. I want to give a little bit of a spotlight because we didn't talk about this, but there has been some silly season news during the mid-week segment here, and Kevin Steele, owner of Apex Racing, has made the announcement that Apex will not be returning as a team next year. They're going to close their racing operations and focus solely on designing paint schemes and doing things on the art side for the iRacing community. So Kevin Steele's driving a bit of a special paint scheme to commemorate the team, and on the back he's got all the drivers who have driven for Apex over the years and through the various leagues. Preston McRae, John Delaney, Brandon Gullett, Cam Caldwell, Brandon Pierce, Cam Stone, DeMar Hickenbottom, Dan Fields, Brian Mabry, Randy Drumhiller. All of those names on the back, they've all driven for Apex at some point or another, and a lot of those drivers are in this race tonight. So Apex, they won the team championship this year, and I'd say that's a pretty good way to go out on top. But right now, I'm watching this battle up front, and I call it a battle, but it's really not. Jonathan Delaney not gaining on the leader. In fact, if you look at the lap times, they are absolutely identical. The leader ran a 27.984. John Delaney ran a 27.995, so just a little bit slower. And I gotta wonder, is John just biding his time? Stage points don't really matter. Don't burn up the tires, don't wreck yourself if the car's feeling a little unstable. Wait for the stage caution. Is that maybe what he's got going on?
It very well could be 15 laps to go here before we see stage 2 come to a close. I think it definitely would be in Jonathan Delaney's favor to kind of save the rest of his tires, save the rest of his fuel, and extend that car as long as he possibly can. He's in second place. That is definitely not something to frown at going into stage 3. He's going to be in a good position starting out stage 3, and he's going to be able to put pressure on Adam Benefiel right out of the gate, and hopefully be able to stay behind, get out in front of Adam Benefiel and be able to stay there, as we've seen Adam have quite the impressive starts here tonight. So it's going to be interesting to see what these two are going to do here tonight going into stage 3.
Yeah, but remember, we may very well have a pit, and depending on what happens with the last 12 laps, they may try to stretch it. But if we see a pit before this stage ends, it's going to be some decision time coming up. But really, the biggest thing that Jonathan Delaney is worried about is where he is in relation to the other two contenders behind him. Cameron Stone currently running about 3 seconds behind him, and Bryson Hixsbaugh about 3.5. So Adam Benefiel being in front of Jonathan Delaney does not worry Delaney one bit. Even if Benefiel takes the stage, that's not the end goal here. So patience is absolutely at the top of Jonathan Delaney's mind. As long as he stays in front of Stone and Hixsbaugh, he can start to hunt down Adam Benefiel in the next stage.
And you mentioned they have the option to pit before the end of the stage. Pit road is closed with 2 to go in the stage, but they can pit prior to that point. And what that does is it kind of changes their track position. So if you come down pit road before the stage caution comes out, that means that you don't have to pit when the yellow flag flies. So you can stay out, get the track position then, or you could stay out and pit during the stage caution, meaning you might lose some track position to the guys who pitted. The difference is tire wear, and can you pit without going a lap down? That's the other big thing. Phoenix is a relatively short track. It is 1 mile, but with the lap times running, it would be really hard to come down pit road before the stage and not go a lap down. So it would be a risky strategy, but it is something they could possibly do as the leaders are working their way through some pretty heavy lap traffic, or at least it was for a minute. Adam Benefiel just worked his way around Cody Bird and Damaris Hickenbottom, and now those are two cars that Jonathan Delaney is going to have to work his way around as they go side by side. And if you're Jonathan Delaney and you see lap cars going side by side in front of you, it's got to be a little scary because you're not quite sure what they're going to do. You know that you got to keep your car clean, and you just got to focus on getting around them cleanly.
Yeah, Jonathan definitely is going to be trying to keep that car as far away from these lap traffic cars as much as he possibly can, as you see him kind of get behind the 09 machine of Damaris Hickenbottom, getting on the low line, working his way through lap traffic there. Yeah, and you know, we were talking about early pit strategies here. If any of these drivers were going to try and make that happen, it's going to happen before, I would say, at least lap 185. I would say after that point, it's definitely not viable. I think you would be putting yourself in a worse position going into stage 3 than the rest of the field. I can't imagine that working out too well for some of these guys, but some of these guys here tonight, they're definitely very capable of doing it. It's just a matter of can they keep up the pace when they have 2-3 guys in a line working their way past them.
The biggest benefit of that, though, is that if you do decide to pit before lap 185, then you're fighting at virtually no pit traffic in pit row versus having to do it at the end of the stage when literally 20 other cars are going to do the same thing as you, get into their pit boxes, get 4 fresh tires and some fuel, and head out. So that's where the strategy could pay off if they decide to do it. But we've seen Delaney as one. We saw him at Texas a couple weeks ago where he was one that would decide to take some early pits to try to save himself some traffic, save himself a chance to lead some laps, and get himself in gear going into the next stage. So that's something that's in my crosshairs for him to do. But now that we've passed lap 185, that very well may not be something that's happening.
That could be. The leader actually gets held up a little bit there by Alex Princeton at the number 19. John was able to close in a little bit with the help of that lap traffic, but not much time remaining in the stage. It'll be lap 187 out of 190 when we cross this time. So if he's going to make the move... Oh, yeah, Dustin Hall. I believe he's... No? Okay. Sorry about that. Anyway, number 9 now working his way around Alex Princeton. He's on the bottom lane trying to get around him, and he actually is starting to close in a little bit. If he continues at this rate, he may be able to make a last lap attempt at it, but the thing is, I'm just not sure it's worth it. Like you said earlier there, Chris, it's a situation where he's still pretty much guaranteed a front row starting position, which is all he needs. He doesn't have to win this stage. It doesn't count for anything. If he can just stay with this 83, guaranteeing himself that track position, that's going to be what he's focused on. That 83 is moving up the track as the stage goes on. Right there, he ran, I would say, above the center lane. He was almost up into the outside lane, and that allowed the 9 to close in a little bit more. So could just be going back to the track temps. The in-sim time right now, as far as the game is concerned, it's about 2:40, 2:50 in the afternoon. So the temps are going to continue to go down. I think noon is about the peak for the heat in this track and in the air. So that's going to continue to change, and I think it's really benefiting the 83 as he has gotten faster throughout this race. But also, we're coming up on a pit stop. If you don't like the way the car is handling, or you do like the way it's handling, you got some decisions to make when it comes to handling. Jonathan Delaney especially. I mean, look at that. He gets completely sideways out of turn 4, trying to follow the leader here. If you're John, and you know the car's starting to get a little bit more grip, do you start to calm the car down a little bit? Make a tire pressure adjustment so that you're not getting quite as sideways. Because if he keeps getting sideways like that, it's going to be an absolute nightmare trying to fight that. But here comes Dustin Hall on those fresher tires. He made his way down pit road, I believe. And so he's going to be able to take the wave around here. But unfortunately not going to finish on the lead lap for the stage.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, making adjustments to your setup, and especially going into the final stage here, it's going to be your last opportunity to do so, I think. Especially if you're in the lead pack here, the top 5, you're going to be making very critical adjustments if you feel that you need to. It almost seems like the 83 Adam Benefiel, it seems like he has that car dialed into where he likes it, as we see the caution come out for the end of stage 2 here, with Adam Benefiel taking away the win for the stage.
I'm looking at the grid right now, and the way this race is shaping out, going into the last stage of the season, 36 races in, and we're down to the last, what's going to end up being 130 laps before this is done, and there is a lot of questions that still need to be answered as far as who is going to win in claim this championship. And you really have even your last contender right now in the 5th spot, Bryson Hixsbaugh, absolutely still has a shot at this. This last stage is going to be absolutely bananas just from the amount of hard racing that we're going to see amongst everybody.
I would have to agree there. I think this race has been surprisingly calm. 2 cautions for Kaz, and both of those were just 1 or 2 cars that were involved. I'm sorry, 3 cautions for Kaz, not 2. But all of those incidents were just 1 car, 2 cars. We haven't seen anything crazy happen. And if you look at last year's race, things were already starting to heat up by this point. So I got to wonder how fragile this calm really is and if things really kick off. We are going to have a word with our stage winner, if I can find him and bring him down into the chat here. Adam Benefiel. Let's see what he has to say. Adam Benefiel, you got a copy?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on the stage win, Adam. The car looks like a rocket ship out there. How's it feeling?
It feels pretty good, man. Kind of threw the kitchen sink at it right before the race, and it's worked out. Delaney's still fast. I don't know. Should get good. Hopefully we can finish it out. At least we got one stage win for Jimmy, so hopefully we get the whole thing for him.
Absolutely doing him and his family proud. Hashtag Jimmy Strong. We're rooting for you, Adam. Good luck with the rest of the race, bud.
Thanks, man.
All right, Adam Benefiel out of the booth. And he said it. You know, this is for Jimmy. This is for Jimmy and his family. It's about so much more than just the championship, and that's a pretty special thing. But it looks like the number 1 lining up to try and take his wave around. He's going to have a number of cars to work through, because the thing about the wave around, guys, is you don't get to start at the tail end of the lead lap cars. You got to start at the tail end of the entire field, lap down or not. So a lot of cars that he's going to have to work through. Luckily, he's got that short run speed in his toolkit. We've seen him so fast on these restarts. I don't think it's going to take Dustin long before you see him up in the top 10 again.
Yeah, Dustin Hall has been very, very promising in that number 1 machine. We've seen him all night just being very impressive in that number 1. Very consistent as well, I'd have to say, able to work his way up into the top 10 and even the top 5 we've seen of quite a few times. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not Dustin's going to be able to work his way through the field one more time, as we have 1 more to green and our final stage of racing here at Phoenix Raceway. Adam Benefiel, Robert Miller, Jonathan Delaney, Cameron Stone, your top 4. My, oh my, guys, we are going to have some fantastic racing here for the final stage of Phoenix.
Yeah, if you are a fan of hard racing, you get a little bit of bumps, you get some good speeds on the outside, some very aggressive driving. This is exactly where you want to be. If you guys haven't already, tell your friends. And if they're race fans, this is definitely going to be a spectacle to see. You have the top 4 contenders in the top 5 positions at this track, along with one Robert Miller, who's had a real good car all day long and has raced side by side and ahead of a lot of these guys as he won the first stage. This is going to be fun. We're about to go green flag. Where is everybody going to end up? We have just over 100 laps to figure it out.
And figure it out they will have to do, because they almost went 3 wide into turn 1. Jonathan Delaney with an absolute send on the bottom. He's going to get to the bottom of the number 10. But again, we've seen this so many times where that bottom lane just gets him loose. It did it again right there. He's aggressively trying to side draft. Even the producers reacted to it. Carlos saw that happen, but I think before I did. That was a little bit of a scary moment. More side drafting, nearly putting the 57 into the wall. The aggression levels through the roof on this stage 3 restart. I don't think we've seen anything quite this rough out of these drivers the entire race.
Sorry, Mason. Cameron Stone is very, very aggressive coming through a lot of these turns, keeping the high line and keeping the defense on John Delaney. But Delaney might just have too much of a car to keep out of that spot for too long. But just more side drafting between those two cars and more dives down into the bottom from Jonathan Delaney. I think eventually they're going to find their way through. And don't forget about Bryson Hixsbaugh, who's right behind those two, who could easily get collected if things go sideways as well.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, I think, like I mentioned earlier, these guys are going to save it for this final stage.
Contact, Jonathan Delaney going around.
From the 63 into the number 9 of Jonathan Delaney. Jonathan suffers the worst from that. He's down P13 now. The caution comes out on the field, and I'm sure he's a little upset to have that number 63 of Bryson Hixsbaugh get into contact with him in this final race here tonight.
Yeah, I was just going to say it. It was going to be my next thing, was John he's walking on eggshells here. He's racing in and amongst some drivers who all season long he's antagonized. He is frustrated. And this is the race where if you're going to pay John back, you got to do it now. And that 63, he got a huge send down to the bottom. And, I mean, the 63 did nothing wrong. He made a move there. He wasn't trying to wreck the number 9, but he put John in a position where it was either you can see the position or you get spun. A very Ayrton Senna-esque scenario for the Formula One fans out there. But you can see he just got really sideways. Although I'll tell you what, this makes things a lot more interesting, guys, because John didn't get any damage. He slid up towards that outside wall, but he kept it clean. So that car is clean. And now he's going to be really frustrated with that 63. I'm not a betting man. I'm pretty bad at betting. But if I was, I would say this battle's not over yet.
No, not at all. And Jonathan Delaney and Bryson Hixsbaugh, along with Cameron Stone, actually decide to all pit. I think Delaney got the worst of that just in case. I think it added a little more tire wear to his vehicle than he's comfortable with at this point of the race. So him going in and getting 4 fresh tires at this point with some sets to spare, I think is absolutely the right move. Adam Benefiel still sitting at the top of the grid like, yeah, you know what, everything's happening behind me. I'm just fine up here. No big deal. But this is going to be a real intense last 120 laps.
And speaking of Adam Benefiel kind of just being out in the front and enjoying things, I think that's what Adam was kind of hoping for tonight. I think he was hoping that maybe possibly the field behind him was just going to kind of get into one another and sort themselves out, if you will. And, Adam, it seems to be working in his favor so far, but he's still got Robert Miller, Brandon Pierce, Kevin Steele, Lucas Hoytsma are all going to be in the top 5 now as well. So things are shaking up here in the front of the field, and once Jonathan Delaney gets himself back out on track and finds himself back into the lineup here, Jonathan's going to be working his way through the field rather quickly, I think, as he's going to have probably a new set of tires, I would assume. And yeah, it's going to be a very interesting challenge here for Jonathan, as he's going to have to work his way through 12 positions to find himself in P1.
2 things. One, can you imagine the smile on the face of Bryson Hixsbaugh right now? just got to put that thought in your head, because I think it's definitely a wide smile. And also, I would love to be a fly on the wall for the conversation that's going on in voice chat right now. But then again, it's probably not safe for stream consumption, so that's something to think about. But just a very, very key time for that to happen. And again, we saw this a week ago at Martinsville, and Delaney was able to come back in that situation and get himself back to the front. And also, look who's starting behind Bryson Hixsbaugh on this restart.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you mentioned Bryson's smile, and I think it was like, it's probably a little bit like that meme, I don't know if you've ever seen, where it's the guy and he's laughing real hard, but then in the background there's a faded image of him looking all concerned. That's Bryson, because he was probably really excited that the number 9 went around, but then he saw the 9s restarting behind him, and suddenly now he's probably a little concerned because, well, the guy that I just dumped, he's starting right next to me. He's got fresh tires, and I've basically given him the go-ahead. When you take somebody out, regardless of the past feud, when you spin somebody, intentional or not, you kind of open the door where it's like, okay, if they retaliate, I can't really say anything about it. So that battle is far from over. With them starting side by side, I would predict something to happen between these two within the coming laps here. But Either way, even if these guys keep it clean, it's still going to be a wild restart because Cameron Stone, a very fast car, he's starting back here with Jonathan Delaney, with the number 63. These guys have a lot of cars to pass, and in the meantime, we've got Adam Benefiel leading the field to the green. He's on slightly older tires. Are the tires going to matter that much? Is he going to be able to hold them off? We don't really know because the tire wear has been so wonky at this track. It could go either way, but there he goes. Green flag. He crosses the line for lap 202. I'm sorry, 203. And he's going to hold on to the lead for at least the first corner here at the entry. And behind them, you got cars fanning out everywhere. 3 wide for a moment into turn 3. You've got Bryson Hixsbaugh with a huge run around the number 44, picking up a number of positions, and that left the 57 and the 9 in the dust.
Yeah, we have drivers battling it out all over the field here, especially in the front. We have Brandon Pierce in the number 38 battling it with Robert Miller in the number 10. Excuse me, not Brandon Pierce, the Kevin Steele in the number 24. And the 38 of Brandon Pierce is definitely feeling the pressure for third place currently. We have drivers going 3 wide, 2 wide all over the field, as you can see on your screens now. The pressure is on in this final stage here, and these guys are pushing these cars as hard as they possibly can, trying to find whatever track position they possibly can muster. And man, these guys are not letting up any sort of any sort of throttle whatsoever on their competition.
Bryson Hixsbaugh owns 3 now over Jonathan Delaney as far as quarter panel hits, and this is going to be a real interesting spot because they are door to door right now in lap 207. Hixsbaugh looks like he's conceding that spot. He goes down low, then comes back up the track Delaney style and is able to keep things in front. We're going 3 wide coming out of that spot, and Delaney's right behind them as Hixsbaugh leads the lower part of the track into that 3 wide spot. That's a real tight area right now on this track as you see that battle happening for 5th, 6th, and 7th right now.
I tell you what, if I was any of these other drivers around the number 9 and the 63, I don't see these as cars. I see these as bombs waiting to go off.
Bombs, exactly.
Yep. Because they are very, very close in pace. And our producer's reacting to something. Not sure what happened on track. Oh, McRae. Looks like he might have backed it into the wall. A lot of rear-end damage to that machine. But yeah, these two drivers very close in pace. And you said it there, Chris. The 63 has 3 quarter panel hits over the last 2 weeks to the number 9. And at this point, I'm not sure it really matters how much the number 9 antagonized him. It's been all the 63 for the last couple weeks. Jonathan Delaney, he's going to get aggressive with it. Here he goes down to the bottom, turn 1. The 63 is not going to give him an inch, and we know that much. He's going to pinch him down to the bottom, still at the quarter panel. Aggressive side drafts, contact through the dog leg. They're going to be door-to-door, more contact. Jonathan Delaney bouncing up in the air, a little bit of net code, I think. The door's never really touched, but as John slides up, the 63 is going to give him a little bit of room. This battle absolutely on fire as the number 9 slides up behind him. They're going back into turn 1. This is where John has been historically faster. Down to the yellow line. He's going to give a little bit of a bump to the 63. Can he get back to the quarter panel this time? Not quite. Guys, this is intense.
This is the best battle so far on the track. Oh, watch more contact. Jonathan Delaney just about got into the corner panel of Hixsbaugh. We may see it on this turn as well.
And you know, speaking of which too, I don't know which driver I would rather be right now. Kevin Steele, the number 24, or Cameron Stone in the 57. Both of these guys watching this battle happen in front of them and behind them. You know, Bryson Hixsbaugh and Jonathan Delaney are duking it out right now, side by side. These guys are so close to one another. You can see it here coming into turn 2. Oh man, you can see how close these guys are, nearly door to door and holding it there side by side. Jonathan Delaney falling behind just a little bit behind the 63. Guys, this battle brewing for 5th place right now is exciting to watch, and I don't think it's going to end anytime soon.
And isn't this a microcosm of this entire rivalry between these two racers? This has been brewing for weeks. These two racers do not like each other. That is no secret amongst the 100% Cup Series community. And so everybody knows when these two get together, when things start getting intense between the two of these two racers, just stay away and let the enigma happen and watch the spectacle unfold. That's exactly what we're seeing in the last part of this race and our last part of the last race of the season, race 36. This is it, and all the while Adam Benefield's looking up front and just kind of laughing about it.
And there was more contact going into turn 1. It slowed the 9 up more than it slowed the 63, but there's contact again. Jonathan Delaney is extremely lucky that this is iRacing and that cutting tires down isn't a thing, because if it was, I think both these drivers would have tires down some time ago. But as you mentioned there, Chris, you just called it out. Cameron Stone, player 3, has entered the game. He is right behind the number 63. And in the meantime, all of these drivers have caught Kevin Steele. So we have 4 cars under a blanket, 2 of which may be facing some real adversity here with one another. Coming around the outside, Bryson's going to get clear of the 24. That cost the 9 a little bit of time. Can the 9 get clear of the 24? This is going to be very crucial. Yes, he can. He is clear. So it's 1 car length that separates them, but they're not going to stay separated for long.
Not at all.
And as we have drivers getting closer and closer to one another, but battling it out here for this for this 4th place position, it's just getting spicier and spicier as we turn more and more laps here. Jonathan Delaney and Bryson Hixsbaugh still duking it out side by side. They were able to get around Cameron Stone in the 57, and I'm sure Cameron's not too happy about that at this point in time, but I'm sure he's probably a little bit more content not having to worry too much more about these 2 battling it out in front of him, as he might be able to work his way around them if they do get into one another once again and cause an even bigger wreck, as these guys are still side by side battling it out for P4 here. And man, it's absolutely impressive what the 63 is doing here, just trying to keep it out in front of that number 9, and Jonathan even doing an even more impressive job trying to get out in front, as he almost does here in turn 2, able to get out in front of the 63, and now he's going to take P4 from Bryson Hixsbaugh, and I'm sure Bryson is going to send the number 9 a message here once he's able to get on that bumper of Jonathan Delaney.
Oh, yeah, watch for some potential. We saw this play out just a little while ago, but now you have Bryson Hixsbaugh, who's not going to take that position loss lying down. You know he is going to send everything, including the kitchen sink, at Jonathan Delaney and test him and make sure that he can get a chance at that spot again. But I want to put the spotlight real quick on Brandon Pierce. He's in the number 3 spot right now. He has had one of the better cars since about halfway through this 2nd stage. And now in the 3rd stage, he's running up he's only 2 seconds behind Adam Benefiel in that spot. Robert Miller and Brandon Pierce both not contending for a championship, but they're sandwiched in the middle of the contenders right now as we go into the last third of this race.
Real quick, I want to mention that there is another poll up in the chat. It's been there for a little while for the viewers at home. Who do you think is going to win the playoffs tonight? Go ahead and leave your vote. Right now, looks like Bryson Hixsbaugh is leading the polls with 67%, so 2 out of 3. Jonathan Delaney has the other vote. Let us know what you think. Put your vote in the poll. In the meantime, I think for Jonathan Delaney, luckily this battle has subsided, at least for the time being. Bryson, he knew the 9 was faster. I think it was just, he was messing with him. He was trying to slow him down, trying to rough him up as much as he could before the 9 got around him, because, once that 9 made the move, I think it was kind of a certain thing that he was going to drive off with it. But what didn't go according to Delaney's plan, and what I think he may not have expected, is the fact that Cameron Stone in that 57 is actually closing in on him. And right now, he's actually lapping a little bit faster consistently. All of these drivers, by the way, have moved to the high line of the track as their single file. And it seems like as the race goes on, they move higher and higher. And remember, that's where Cameron Stone was fast all day long. So if the high line's good enough for everybody else, then he's got to be excelling right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Cameron Stone is doing a fantastic job of closing the gap between himself and Jonathan Delaney. And it seems like Bryson Hixsbaugh kind of fell off the pace there a little bit once Jonathan was able to get around Bryson there. So it's going to be interesting to see what Bryson's going to try and do to work his way back up to Jonathan Delaney here. But Cameron Stone, like you said, Andre, he's looking very fast and very consistent. And it almost appears to be that Cameron's getting a little bit closer to that number 9 machine. It's almost hard to say who is faster visually. But right now, it seems like Jonathan Delaney is trying to just close that gap between himself and Brandon Pierce, and there's still quite a bit of distance to do so. So right now, lap 202 224 of 312. We're only going to have, I think, one green flag pit stop here. So Jonathan's going to definitely be looking to try and save his car as long as possible now that he's in P4 and prepare himself for that first pit stop of this stage.
Pairing splits between Cameron Stone and Jonathan Delaney right now. Delaney is a little bit slower than Stone on the straights. So Stone's actually still hitting 160, 161 at the fastest speed right now. Delaney 159, 160. Will it take a little while for him to reach him at that pace? Yes. But I think one mistake and Cameron Stone's going to be all over him and trying to take that spot from him. Jonathan Delaney has had one of the faster cars all day, but so has Cameron Stone. This is a battle between two very good cars. Once we see that battle take place, and I think that's going to be seen probably in the next 5 time laps or so.
Yeah, you got to consider the fact that the 38 has been slowly falling back to these guys, and when that battle starts happening between the 9 and the 38, that's just putting the 57 in the catbird seat. He can use that to his advantage, try to make the move, and I think clean air is really important here. I mean, look at the leaders. Look at Robert Miller and Adam Benefiel up there, running second and first respectively. They got out in clean air. They're kind of in their own little world, and they are pulling away. Meanwhile, you got these guys back here bumper to bumper battling, and that's going to slow their cars down. It's going to make them feel a little bit worse. If it is there, the 9 can get out in clean air, who knows what kind of lap times they'd be capable of. As the number 9 goes way down the dog leg, he's going to try to get side by side with Pierce. Now let's see what kind of defense Pierce can play. He's not had to use too much defense tonight, but here he goes on the high line above that second seam. It's not quite going to be enough. The 9's going to make the move.
Jonathan Delaney looking very impressive doing so as well. You know, Jonathan has done a very excellent job here. We've talked about it a couple times already tonight, and just how patient John has been throughout this race and making sure that he's waiting for the most opportune time to make passes happen. And it seems to be working in his favor as he's now P3 and going to be looking to close the gap between himself and the number 10 of Robert Miller, as you can see on your screens there for just a moment. Just the distance between those two cars. It is quite the distance that he's going to have to close here, but still a long race left to go here, and Jonathan is looking very promising out on the track here. So let's see what these guys are going to do here in this final stage. And, you know, I got to say, Jonathan having to deal with a little bit of adversity at the beginning of this stage, finding himself up in P3, you know, I think that's just a level of determination that you just really don't see a whole lot of.
See what the script has for us. If we have another caution and one more restart to see if we can figure out if they can get separated again. But if we get to green flag pits, it very well may turn out to be a battle of pit strategies and seeing where everybody ends up at. But Adam Benefiel and Jonathan Delaney, I don't think they're done racing today. I think those two are going to probably be 1-2 before this race is done. No discredit to Robert Miller, who's run a heck of a race, but that 3.5 seconds is going to look real tiny here in probably another 20-30 laps between Delaney and Adam Benefiel as they start to race the last 50 laps, probably 1-2.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that gap is going to shrink. Delaney's probably going to move up towards second place and make a shot at it. And, you know, Mason mentioned it earlier, but they've got another green flag stop ahead of them. And it could very well be the most important pit stop of the entire season, because it's likely to be the last if we don't get another caution for cause. And the time that they gain or lose could be make or break. Obviously, Adam Benefiel has a huge lead right now. Almost, I believe, over second place, he's got about a second. But back to the next playoff car, John Delaney, it's 3.5 seconds. So an absolutely massive gap, but one that could be closed with an undercut. If they're 2 seconds a lap slower on older tires and John comes in 2 laps sooner, that gap is gone. And we may have another battle in our hands. So what these guys choose to do under this pit sequence, assuming it stays green, could be the championship or not.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be very interesting to see what these guys are going to do for pit strategy. And, you know, if you're Adam Benefiel, if you're Robert Miller, paying attention to what the guys in the rest of the field are doing behind you and kind of just playing off of that is going to work in your favor, I think. If you're these two drivers, if you're Adam Benefiel especially, Um, I don't think you're going to want to be the first driver into the pits, especially when you have a driver like Jonathan Delaney, who is known to be a very solid long-run racer. You might find yourself down one lap, maybe even at worst two, if you find yourself in a really bad spot, have a bad pit entry, whatever the case may be. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these pit strategies are going to play out for these drivers and how it's going to play into the rest of the race.
I'm taking a look at things right now, and the biggest thing that is jumping at me is we're still probably 40 laps from the pit window that we've been talking about. There's still some moves that can be made between now and then. Probably lap 260, 270 is when these guys are going to look to probably get into the pits and get their fresh tires, fresh gas before the last part of this race. That's, of course, barring any cautions or any stoppages of that sort. So this next 20, 30 laps probably going to be more just keeping things status quo, because everybody on the track knows that the green flag pit stop here, probably the only one we're going to have in this race, if it happens, is going to be the biggest one of the season, as Andre alluded to.
And you mentioned this would be the only green flag stop we've had so far. I mean, we've gone 238 laps, and these drivers have not had to make their way down pit road at speed. And this pit road can be fairly challenging. I mean, you've got to be down on the apron before you come out of the corner. And that banking transition, even though it is very subtle, it does unsettle the car, and there is no grip down there, especially when the track is hot. You get down on that apron, it's very easy to lock up your brakes, get a little bit sideways. But at the same time, this is the championship race. This is winner takes all, so you can't play too conservative trying to get into the pits. You've really got to get everything right. I mean, it's a game of finesse, and there's a million little things that you can do to get your pit stop entry right or wrong. These guys are going to have to nail it, because, I mean, one mistake could be extremely costly. And I'm sure these guys have practiced their pit road entry time and time again, but the thing is, it doesn't matter how much you practice it. When you've been green for 240 laps, you're going to get a little bit rusty. You know, you're not going to be as used to it as you otherwise would be. So that could be quite the challenge. Is up ahead of Cameron Stone. Jonathan Delaney is still in third, and he's approaching another lapped car. That's Tanner Noel in the 13, in the 08 machine in 13. And there goes Delaney around the bottom. Tanner's going to give him plenty of room. Cameron Stone's going to have to try to get around him here in a few laps. But yeah, a lot of separation so far, and a green flag pit sequence coming up shortly. Why don't we take in the sights and sounds of Phoenix for what might be the final Bring the Noise of the season. Adam Benefiel still out front, crossing the line for lap 247. Got a viewer in chat. Carl Peters says pit stop should start around lap 260, and it sounds about right to me, guys. I think 260 is going to be the sweet spot. That'll put them where they have a decent run to the end. They're not going to be on absolutely old tires by the end of it, but also it just kind of keeps them on pace. I think it splits it somewhere down the middle and should be comfortable for these guys. But the question is, who comes in before that 260 mark? Who takes the undercut and who tries to stay out? I mean, you got to think with these drivers, there's about a million things going through their mind, 1,000 different possibilities. Maybe we get a yellow, maybe we don't. Maybe the track temperature changes, maybe it doesn't. It's got to be such a difficult decision to make.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Andre. We've stayed pretty consistent here throughout this stage 3, and even through stage 2 as well. It's been green flag racing this entire time. Excuse me, and these guys have gotten just even more consistent as the races progress. So it's going to be hard to say whether or not we're going to see another caution come out here or not.
I think for me, ultimately, if you have one candidate for early pit, I think. How much does Robert Miller want to be a part of what's about to go down between the top 4? Do you see him take an early pit? If he ends up at the front of the field, fantastic. If he doesn't, then you have the top 4 already competing for a championship in the first 2 rows. That's a thought process that could create an interesting storyline. Not saying that Robert Miller would be down to sacrifice a race, but I think that could be that'd be like perfect storm scenario for those top 4. But among the top 4, probably Delaney, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it's a question of, like you said, what do you do around the playoff contenders? And that's kind of what we face all of the entirety of the playoffs, is you've got guys who aren't in the playoffs or not in it for points. And it's kind of this thing that runs through your mind of like, what is the respectful thing to do versus, what do I want to do as a driver? And there's got to be some sort of middle ground where it's like, yeah, I'm here to win. I just got to try to do it in a way that, steers clear of the competition and doesn't mess up the guys who are in it for the points. And really, Robert's done a good job of that tonight. He's ran up front. He's led some laps for pretty much the entirety of stage 3. He's been in second. But all night long, he's not been in the way of the playoff contenders. He's never raced them too rough or too hard. He's never done anything that really put them in any sort of detriment. So I could see him maybe taking the undercut, trying to get the lead, and then if he does, trying to drive away with it. And yeah, I mean, there would be nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, Robert Miller's definitely in a position to be able to make that happen for himself tonight. And, if you are a driver that is able to lead out in the front of the field and compete with these guys that are absolutely very fast, very quick, and very solid racers, yeah, absolutely, go for it. If you're not causing wrecks, if you're, not getting into other drivers or giving them too much problems, then you're more than welcome to get out in the front of the field and put down some laps and even lead the race. And Robert Miller, I think, is absolutely on a mission to do that here tonight, as he's done that consistently, time and time again, this entire race here tonight. So excellent work to Robert in that number 10 machine, and as he still is trying to keep it out in front of that number 9 of Jonathan Delaney, as we have drivers making their way into pit road. That's going to be Cameron Stone and Kevin Steele starting off our pit road cycle.
Yeah, and that's actually a little bit earlier than I think we anticipated. We were thinking 260, 270. Cameron Stone, the first of the 4 contenders to jump into pit road. Damaris Hickenbottom was the first one who started the party, getting everybody to think about it as you see. Now the clock is going to be inside Adam Benefiel, Robert Miller, and Jonathan Delaney along with Bryson's head. And don't forget, you have Bryson Hixsbaugh. He's in the 4th spot just behind Jonathan Delaney. We've been here plenty of times, and this could be the spot to really pay attention to that battle and seeing how far the Hixsbaugh wants to push it.
Yeah, I got a message from Bryce Hoffman, who's currently on the pit box for Cameron Stone. He's working as his crew chief, and he said pit stops are starting, and no sooner than he said that, the 57 peeled down pit road, among others. And yeah, you said it. It's a little bit earlier than we expected, but for a lot of these guys, they may see that as their only chance. And honestly, it's a bit of a safe bet. The undercut, the big risk that you take is, well, I came down pit road a little too early, then a caution came out while I was trapped a lap down. Now I got to start at the end of the tail end of the field, and I got to take a wave around. It's just not good. You know, it puts you at the back end, and it doesn't work. So now we have a race where we've not had a caution for cause in quite a while. And the field has started to thin out. We've gotten pretty separated from one another. So the likelihood of a caution, I would say, is about as low as it's ever been tonight. So if you want to take that undercut, you want to pit a few laps early, it's kind of a safe bet. And with the tire wear plateau working the way that it has tonight, it's kind of a all-win, no-lose situation. You get fresh tires sooner, you close in on the leaders. Before you know it, everybody's hit the tire wear plateau, everybody's running the same pace. But here comes the leader, Adam Benefiel, number 83. He's going to make his way down pit road. And so, yeah, that puts Stone pitting about 2 laps before the leader. And Jonathan Delaney's still out on track as well. So, man, this pit stop, I think this is going to shake up the running order big time, guys.
I think you're right. I think actually Cameron Stone's going to get the better end of this. Only 2 laps of tire wear between him and everybody else who decided to come in. So he's gonna get a benefit here as he'll jump up the running order a little bit as things start to work in his favor. Bryson Hixsbaugh, Jonathan Delaney, Adam Benefiel, the rest of the contenders are now all completely pitted, and that actually Hixsbaugh has not gone in yet. His last one was 200, so he is the only one of the leaders that has not.
Jonathan Delaney locked up, sorry to cut you off there, Mason, but Jonathan Delaney locked up the tires big time coming into the pits, so I'm curious to see if he was able to avoid a penalty. He's currently pulling into his pit stall right now, and he got a good entry. Didn't slide past it, so everything's good in that front. Right side tires go up, and Jackman's going to work his way to the left side of the car, lift that side up, get fresh Goodyears, and we're going to see, did that number 9 accrue a penalty?
Yeah, I noticed that as well. Jonathan Delaney coming into pit road locked it up real hard. Able to keep it together, able to keep it together though. Jumbling up my words here tonight, but Jonathan able to get out of pit road without a penalty being incurred on himself. He's going to find himself in P5 as he works his way back out on track, and we have Bryson Hixsbaugh actually out in first place currently, but he is on the oldest set of tires as Adam Benefiel and Robert Miller are going to be second and third on around lap 259 is where we'll say those 2 drivers have entered into pit road. So Bryson Hixsbaugh is going to have a lot of work for himself cut out if he wants to stay out any longer. But I think Bryson is going to find himself coming down pit road in probably the next 5 or 10 laps. He's still got a little bit more time left on those tires, I think.
He definitely could, and it is worth noting that number 9 was able to avoid a penalty. So whenever you see somebody come into the pits that hot, where they're just smoking the tires and they don't get a penalty, you know that was fast, right? They were flying into the pits, no penalty. I think Jonathan Delaney, somebody just missed pit road. Looks like the number 46, Patrick Mucci, he was going to come down pit road and then actually swerve to the right of the sand barrels in front of Jonathan Delaney. But anyways, as I was saying, that number 9 got a fast entry. So when this all cycles through, I would not be surprised to see him at least cycle out ahead of the number 10, but maybe be right there with Benefiel. He's going to make a move on this 63, and there he goes, unlapping himself to Bryson. Yeah, that number 9 is on rails. I think Bryson is kind of on a strategy where he's hoping for a caution, but I can't say that that's a very high likelihood.
I think you're exactly right on the head with that. I think Bryson is staying out a little bit long. I think if he goes in the next lap or 2, I think it's a decent play because he'll have fresher tires and more gas than anybody else in the field at this point. So could be a long play for him. I'm not sure where his strategy's at, but at the same time, now Adam Benefiel is sitting right behind him with Robert Miller, and those 2 are your de facto leaders, 1 and 2. After this all gets said and done, Cameron Stone and Jonathan Delaney right with each other as well. So the biggest question is going to be the question mark of Hixsbaugh, where he ends up when all this is said and done.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to say where Bryson's going to find himself once he comes down pit road. And like you said, Adam Benefiel and Robert Miller are going to be the top 2 leaders here in this race. And, looking between these 2 drivers, Adam Benefiel is going to find himself in quite the spot here as he's got a decent gap between himself and Robert Miller in that number 10 machine. So once Bryson Hixsbaugh finds it's time to come down pit road and get some fresh tires on that car and some more fuel to finish out the rest of today's race, you know, I think Adam Benefiel is going to be quite comfortable, and Bryson, oh man, it's going to be hard to find himself not a lap down. These guys are still clicking off laps of about 26 seconds for guys that are on the newer set of tires, and 27 to 28 for the guys that are still on the older set of tires or just not quite as fast as the rest of the field.
Adam Benefiel shaving about a full second every lap he takes off of the gap between him and Bryson Hixsbaugh. That's got to be a red flag for the pit team, Bryson Hixsbaugh, to get himself into the pit box. We're coming up on lap 269. That's what is that? 51 laps to go, if I'm right. And okay, and then either way, we're still running not enough time for Hixsbaugh to try to hold this out. He's running laps that are just over 28 seconds, while everyone else is running 26s and 27s.
Yeah, again, it was kind of a situation where he's hoping for a caution, and it just hasn't happened. Everything's been very clean, very clear. I mean, there's a lot of separation through the field tonight. We got a big field, but everybody was able to get separated and kind of do their own thing. So banking on a caution like that, I can see why Bryson did it. I think he probably felt like he didn't have the fastest car tonight. Whatever the setup he has, it just isn't quite there with Jonathan Delaney's or with Adam Benefield's. But if he could maybe try something on strategy and get lucky, that gives him a chance. So he tried it. I think ultimately it just didn't work. He didn't get the caution soon enough, because even if he got it now, it would not help him very much. So it's a rough situation, but anything can change as Jonathan Delaney continues to work his way around the track. And one thing I want to note is that Delaney is a lot faster now than he was earlier in the race. And he was faster because when he passed Cameron Stone for position about 10 or 15 laps ago, he passed Cam like he was standing still. And I mean, we saw what a battle Cam was putting up earlier, what a fight he was putting up. But this time, that fight wasn't even a possibility. John was there and then gone before he even had the chance to try to defend. So that 9 is flying. And I think once everybody else has worked their way down pit road, we're going to see a battle between Benefiel and Delaney.
Yeah, exactly. Just real quick, Delaney, you mentioned how fast he's going. He's running 2 3/10 of a second faster than everyone else at this point in the grid, every single lap, and it's consistently every single lap. So that's something to keep an eye on, as that's going to really be a real nice way to close the gap. Is just 2.5 seconds behind Adam Benefiel at this point.
And speaking of which as well, you know, we have all of the lap traffic sort of getting involved with the front of the field here that's slowing them down just ever so slightly. And I think that's playing in the favor of Jonathan Delaney, as you can see making his way through lap traffic now very, very quickly. That 9 machine is looking absolutely mean on the track right now. It's, you know, once we find Bryson Hixsbaugh in pit road, Jonathan Delaney's going to find himself in P3, and the only driver in front of him that he's going to have to work to is that number 10 of Robert Miller. And I don't think it's going to take him very long, but given we only have less than, I believe, 40 laps left to go here in this stage, it's going to be a very tricky one for Jonathan to try and manage and be able to work through. And Adam Benefiel is going to be quite comfortable, I think, here in the last few laps here of this race.
Comfortable indeed, at least for the time being. Again, that number 9, Chris hit the nail on the head when he said he's closing in by 2 to 3 tenths every single lap. That's still happening. Last time by, it was about 2 tenths. So John's still a little bit faster. We'll see how it is once we hit that tire wear plateau, and then eventually once the tires get really bad. But I think this gap's going to continue to close, and with the amount of laps we have left, I mean, we're on 276, coming to 277 out of 312. There's not much of this event left to run, and I think by the time John gets there, it might just be a shootout to the end between 2 incredibly talented drivers who have just been class in the field tonight. It's surprising to me how much the 57 has kind of fallen off. I mean, we've seen Cameron Stone run so well early in this race. You know, he had pace. Maybe he wasn't quite as fast as Jonathan Delaney. Maybe the setup wasn't quite there. But he was able to defend. You know, he was able to hold Jonathan up. He was able to really put up a fight. Now it seems like that fight is gone out of not just the 57, but the 63. And again, I keep going back to this track temp, but look how much shadier the entire track looks than when we started. It is now about 3:30 in the game time. So we've been racing for 2.5 hours. The track temp has changed a lot. These drivers have made a lot of adjustments. Maybe some of these guys even went the wrong way. Who knows? I mean, one bad tire pressure adjustment might be all it took to get the fight out of that car.
Yeah, and as cars start to look a little bit farther and farther apart from one another, we're not seeing cars kind of too close to one another. These guys are finding themselves in, I guess, just the preferred lines that they want to be in, and just not able to really gain much more speed than what they're able to get right now. But Jonathan Delaney is a driver out there who is still able to increase his lap times and stay consistent, and hopefully able to do that. But one driver I want to mention on your screen now, as I say that, Bryson Hixsbaugh works his way down into pit road after, I believe that his last pit lap was 200. We are on lap 280. So 80 laps out on track. That is actually, I think, 5 laps more than what we were predicting for tire wear. So Bryson was absolutely determined to try and stay out on track as long as he possibly could, but let's see how it's going to affect him as far as where he finds himself in the field once he makes his way out of pit road.
Looking at the matchup right now, between the impending matchup between Delaney and Robert Miller, as it looks like Delaney's shaving off probably about 0.2 of a second off the gap every lap between him and Robert Miller. So that's something to keep an eye on. Probably lap 284 is when he's about to catch him, and lap 285 is when he's going to pass him. I think that's inevitable at this point, and I think Robert knows that. He can see Delaney in his rearview mirror, and Benefiel can see everybody in his rearview mirror. He's got about 1.5 seconds on Delaney right now, and that's his closest competition. And Miller's his closest competition, but for how long that's going to stay remains to be seen.
And you mentioned that 1.5 gap, and it's funny because the last time we talked about it, it was 2.5 seconds. So it is continuing to shrink. Jonathan Delaney, that long run speed all season long has been just unbeatable. That number 9, and it doesn't matter where. That's what amazes me. Whether it's a road course, whether it's a short track, whether it's an intermediate or even 1.5 miles, once the laps start to wind down and everybody else starts to fade, that 9 never does. In fact, he may sometimes get faster. I mean, there are times where the tire wear starts to fade and you see that 9 car start to lose a couple tenths. But then, after a while, he gains a tenth or two back. It's incredible what he's capable of doing on these long runs. And it may just be what gives him a chance to win this championship at the end of the night, because we've got just under 32 laps to go. The gap is about 1.4 seconds. And if he keeps closing in at the rate that he is, he probably will get there before the end of it. The question is, can he make the move? Because we've seen it time and time again. It takes an average, I would say, of about 5 to 6 laps to set up a proper overtake and make it stick. But then that opens the door to the question of, when you're fighting for the championship and there's only a handful of laps left, do you even bother with a proper overtake, or do you put the bumper to somebody?
When it gets down to the desperation area, time, how many laps you left, and how much track you have left to race, I think you absolutely have to consider the possibility, even if you're not one who can be more aggressive than not, like a Jonathan Delaney. Like, if you're in a position to potentially win a championship, do you maybe asking for permission isn't nearly as effective sometimes as taking the advantage and apologizing later.
Yeah, and Jonathan Delaney, he has quite a bit of work ahead of him. Little over 20 laps to go here. He still has to work his way through the number 10 of Robert Miller, who's been a very fast driver all night long. And I don't think he's going to want to give up that P2 spot right now. And I think Robert Miller knows that trying to catch up to the 83 this late in the race is going to be nearly almost impossible. Jonathan Delaney seems to have the speed to be able to do so, but again, by the time he makes his way around that number 10, 25 laps to go on your screen, it's going to be a tough one for John. And I think Adam Benefiel, if he's able to stay as clean as he has been throughout this third stage, I don't think Adam's really going to have too much to worry about, and I think John's just going to really try and just get around that number 10 and take away P2 for tonight.
And you got to think about it this way too. You have 24 laps to go, and you know who's benefiting from an impending Jonathan Delaney and Robert Miller battle is Adam Benefiel. He's got nothing but clean air around him. He's got no one near him at the moment to try to corrupt that air and slow him down. And so Jonathan Delaney fighting through Robert Miller with 24 laps to go. It is going to be a tall task, but I'll tell you what, this will be legendary if Delaney's able to pull it off and catch Benefiel. This could be something to watch.
Yeah, it really could, and I'm glad you mentioned that dirty air because I've been watching this gap, and the second that Jonathan Delaney got to the bumper of the number 10, the gap stagnated. You know, he was gaining 2 tenths, 3 tenths a lap, but it's been at 1.5 for the entire time that he's been behind the 10. It's been 5 or 6 laps since he's really gained anything. And again, part of it's dirty air, and part of it is just the fact that Robert Miller's not quite as quick, and he's got to wait for the opportunity to make the pass. This is allowing the laps to, it's kind of running out the clock, I would say. It would be the best analogy for Adam Benefiel.
Yeah.
The longer the number 9 stays behind the 10, the longer that Adam can stay up there and not really have to worry about it. So this is exactly what our leader wants to see.
Yeah, and I think Adam, might have kind of been hoping for this to happen going into stage 3 here, wanting Jonathan Delaney to stay behind him as long as he possibly could, and really any other driver here tonight. Jonathan just seems to be the one that has the faster car out of the field here, but yeah, Robert Miller definitely not giving Jonathan Delaney many opportunities to make a pass here, and it's going to hurt Jonathan's race here tonight. And only 21 laps left to go. The clock is ticking, and the window for opportunity is closing faster as with each lap that we turn. So I think Jonathan right now is definitely going to be hurting a little bit, having had to work his way through the field. I think that definitely hurt his chances at winning tonight's race quite significantly, probably more than anyone going into tonight was expecting. But Jonathan's still trying to put out the best race that he can in P3 still, and Robert Miller especially as well, coming out here and putting out a P2 finish. So it would seem, with still 19 laps left to go.
We're not quite done yet, but that gap still remains about 1.5, 1.6. Adam Benefiel is doing a nice job. He's actually taken the higher line, which we talked about at length today, has been the faster of the opportunities. I'm riding passenger along with John Delaney right now, and I'm wanting to see where he's going to try to take this advantage on Robert Miller, as Miller has prototypically been running the high line almost every turn versus John Delaney, but not enough so that it's giving Delaney a chance to run the inside line with any consistency. So this is going to have to be an aggressive John Delaney to try to take that spot and hopefully give himself enough time to catch Adam Benefiel.
Yeah, John also has to be careful, though. I mean, he's got to be aggressive with the number 10, but he can't really risk moving him out of the way, I don't think, because if he moves the number 10 and then that causes a yellow flag, well, what happens then? Everybody comes down pit road, everybody gets fresh tires, and at that point, it's an absolute free-for-all. It's a gamble who gets the championship at that point, whereas right now, Jonathan Delaney only has to worry about one other championship contender. It's Adam Benefiel. If he can run him down and do it clean, I think that's his best chance at this championship. So he's got to get around Robert Miller. He's definitely the biggest roadblock for him at this point. But if he can do that, I could see him still having enough time to run down the leader. It would just be tough to make the pass. We're on lap 297, coming to 298 out of 312. Here we go. Like you said, Jonathan Delaney down to the bottom. He's going to side draft the 10. And the question is, how hard does Robert Miller fight this? Does he just roll over, or does he fight for it? Down the bottom lane, Jonathan Delaney gets a bit of an advantage to the center of the lane. He's going to try to slide up. He got clear for a moment, but I'm not sure he was quite confident to slide up. There he goes. Robert Miller having to get on the brakes. A slide job going into the corner from Delaney. Now just one lap car separates him from the championship leader.
Yeah, things are switching up very, very quickly here for Jonathan Delaney. He's only got the number, I believe that's the 44, Randy Drumhiller in front of him currently, before he finds himself behind the number 83 of Adam Benefiel, or at least from the gap to Adam Benefiel. So Jonathan Delaney, 14 laps left to go here. He has a chance to be able to catch up to the number 83 and put the pressure on Adam for P1 tonight and maybe take away a win here at Phoenix. but Adam Benefiel is still able to keep it out in front with nearly a 1.6 second gap between himself and Jonathan Delaney. So Adam is going to be looking to try and keep himself consistent in these final 13 laps here, but Jonathan looking very promising currently, but looking at the timing as well, that gap is not really closing very quickly. So I'm wondering if Jonathan is losing a little bit of speed behind the number 44 of Randy Drumhill.
He's got some dirty air to compete with Drumhiller in front of him, but also he's got to shave off at this point with 12 laps to go. He's got to shave off about 12 100ths of a second every time around to be able to make this race happen for the lead car. He's got to get ahead of Drumhiller though, and he's got to do it right now. He's got the lap traffic is going to try to get out of the way here if he can get in front of him. But look at Drumhiller. Drumhiller's racing him. Drumhiller's absolutely racing Delaney and not really giving him a chance to get in front at the time and pace that Delaney would have wanted. Now he does, and now we have a 2-horse race to the finish with it looks like a 2-second gap as Benefiel was the beneficiary of the Drumhiller and Delaney battle.
Well, I'm not so sure that it was Drumhiller trying to race Delaney. Delaney got really sideways coming out of turn 4. I mean, he may as well have been waving to his pit crew back on the box because he was about 50 degrees angled to the left before he brought that thing back around. And I don't think Drumhiller expected him to get so sideways. He was probably as surprised as anybody when he looked out his driver's side window and seen that 9 still there. So that was, I think, a case of John maybe overdriving a little bit. He's gotten sideways a couple times in these last few laps. And can you blame the guy? I mean, he sees the championship driving away from him and the laps winding down. I'd be overdriving too.
Yeah, you're not wrong on that. You are not wrong on that. Looks like there is still some lap traffic ahead of Benefiel, I believe is who that is, that he is going to be contending with. So that could give an opportunity for him to catch up, to at least work on it. But there's only about 8 laps to go in a very, very tight window of opportunity for Delaney to shrink this deficit.
Jonathan Delaney, the clock is ticking away for his opportunity to be able to take away tonight's win, but Adam Benefiel, with a driver behind him, able to keep the rest of the field kind of behind him a little bit further. Adam is looking very promising in that number 83 tonight in P1. 8 laps left to go here tonight. 7 as we cross the line. Once we cross the line, rather. This race has been shaping up to be very, very exciting throughout the entire race here tonight. And Jonathan Delaney having quite the circumstances to work through. Very impressive work from that number 9 as he has 8 laps left to close that gap and be able to potentially have a final lap shootout for the first place position.
Real quick, Andre, how big does that contact between Hixsbaugh and Delaney earlier look now? Because if you don't have that contact, you don't spin out Delaney. Delaney at that point probably would have been ahead of this race and would have had a chance on a really good restart. We know how good he is at those going into this third stage. There may have been some variables between then and now, but an alternate timeline has Delaney way ahead of Benefiel, I feel like.
I agree. I think that little bit of contact was absolutely something that changed the entire course of this race. Not only just because it slowed him down, it sent him towards the back, but also who knows how much that kind of messed with his alignment on that car. We don't see any visual damage, but you don't always have to. If you bent an axle or an A-arm, you don't always see that, but you can definitely feel it. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like it's night and day difference. The number 9 car was the car to beat prior to that contact, and ever since then, it seems like he just doesn't quite have whatever Benefiel does.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely seems like the 83 is taking away tonight's race with just quite an impressive lead. And it seemed like Adam had been progressing more and more throughout the race, just making that car just better and better as the race has gone on. And it's played in his favor, obviously, very, very well tonight. And Jonathan Delaney, even having that contact with Bryson Hixsbaugh earlier in the race and having been sent down to P12 and working his way through the field, like you mentioned, Chris, if that were to not have happened, I think we would still be kind of seeing the same sort of battle happening out on the field right now. Maybe not quite the same circumstances, but I think those two drivers would still be kind of duking it out here for P1.
Agreed. I just don't think there would be nearly as much of a gap as we see right now. I think it'd be a lot closer either way.
I also agree with that. Right now, Adam Benefield's working his way through 1 and 2. He's going to be taking the 2 to go sign this time, so he's got to make it around one more time before he can cancel out the possibility of an overtime. But he's got quite an advantage over Jonathan Delaney at this point. All he's got to do is take it easy. Benefiel talked in his interview during the stage break that, he threw the kitchen sink at the car. I mean, he absolutely overhauled the setup, and he told me before the race that he wasn't confident in the setup. So it makes sense to me that, yeah, he went out there, he made some changes, but what's surprising is how great those changes were. As he takes the white flag with nearly a 2-second advantage over the next car behind, he's going to work his way through 1 and 2. And what a special night it is for Team Conti. Because all it's going to be is 2 more corners, and Adam Benefiel is going to take Jimmy to victory lane, his car, working his way through 3 and 4 for the final time. Your 100% Cup Series champion for 2021 is going to be Adam Benefiel here at Phoenix.
What a race! What a race from Adam Benefiel, able to take it. You mentioned he overhauled the entire thing, and he knew what he needed to do, and he absolutely put pedal to the floor and just raced his car about as hard as it can be raced, with everything going on behind him, all the drama, all the storylines, along with the situation with Jimmy. This is a huge emotional win for the Jimmy Strong team. This is awesome from just a racing perspective and a human perspective. What a story, and what a racer. Adam Benefiel comes through in the best of scenarios for his friend, and it's just absolutely incredible what we saw here tonight.
We're going to let the leader burn it down. Well, the winner, I shouldn't say leader, the race winner and champion is going to burn it to the ground. Those are some ecstatic donuts. You got to think he is just so elated behind the wheel right now. I mean, talking to him before the race, you would have never thought that this was going to be a possibility. He just didn't have the confidence in the car, but man, he did what Adam Benefiel always does. He never quit working, never quit trying. He came out on top. There's Dustin Hall in the number 1, joining the 83 in this celebration. And again, what a special moment for Jimmy and his family, and of course Jimmy Strong sponsoring the race. The viewers in the chat, I don't know if any of the viewers are the praying kind, but if you are, keep Jimmy in your thoughts and prayers, and if you're not, just send him your best. But yeah, they're gonna do a nose-to-nose burnout, and we're gonna work on getting our post-race interview set up. Before we do that, let's go ahead and run through the final race results. I'll go ahead and take 1 through 10. Of course, the race winner, Adam Benefiel, making himself the 2021 100% Cup Series champion. Jonathan Delaney, 2nd place behind him, coming up 2.5 seconds short of the title. Robert Miller said he wanted to come out here and have fun. Well, that's what he did. He finished on the podium. Cameron Stone finishing 4th. Lincolnshire his defending champion status to Adam Benefiel. Bryson Hixsbaugh finishes 5th, which is last out of the championship contenders. Brandon Pierce 6th. Dustin Hall 7th. Kevin Steele 8th. Randy Drumhiller P9. And rounding out your top 10 is going to be Alex Princeton.
And in 11th place, Damaris Hickenbottom. 12th, Dave Fuse Jr. 13th, Preston McRae. 14th, Patrick Much. 15th, Cody Bird. 16th, Tanner Noel. 17th, Lucas Hoitzma. And I'll let you round off the last of them, Chris.
Yeah, 18th, Ryan Samuelson, jumping up 3 spots from his starting spot. David Duke in the 19th position. Jason Taylor in 20th. Dalton Mobley in the 21st spot. And then we had Sean O'Brien Jr., whose real-life wheel started smoking. That he ends up in 22nd, with Tyler Pinsino just behind him with a 23rd place finish. 23 cars on the grid. Adam Benefiel better than all of them, and better than every racer in 100% Cup Series this season.
I like that. He drove it up all the way over to victory lane, which is something you can do with this new scan of Phoenix. Is you can drive straight to victory lane, and of course that's what Adam has done. And again, what an amazing feat he's pulled off tonight. We're going to start out our post-race interviews with our 3rd place finisher, Robert Miller. Let's bring him up, see what he's got to say. Robert Miller, you got a copy?
I got you.
Well, Robert, you ran a pretty dang good race out there. Top 3 all night long. I don't think I ever saw you off of the podium. The car looked pretty dialed, and you were a part of some pretty fun battles. You and Jonathan Delaney, and even you and Adam Benefiel really dicing it up. What was it like out there tonight?
It was fun. I mean, like I said, it's the last race of the season. I'm going to go all out for it, and it showed. My long run fell off a cliff once I got hit by that lap car. It just ended all the side force I had, so it was wrecking after about 30 laps. But I was able to hold on to it, keep my pace up, so I was pretty proud of that.
You mentioned the contact, and you actually still ran pretty good lap times versus everybody else at the top of the grid. What was your mentality? You see Delaney coming up behind you. You have Benefiel in front of you. You know the situation. We know you're not oblivious to it. You know Delaney's trying to chase down Adam. Are you content with more or less going off to the side there, in theory, if Delaney can catch you? Or are you trying to race him hard either way?
Well, once you saw at least the end of that run, end of the race, like,
yep,
sure he had a chance at it. Then once he got to me, I let him go. But I'm not just going to like pull over a second in front of him and let him go.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to run my race and have some fun.
Yep.
And in the beginning of the race, I raced everybody hard. Like I raced Adam hard, I raced John hard. And if they're going to have a problem with it, well, don't race me that hard. I mean, Robert, I keep it clean, but I race you hard. That's all I do.
Absolutely, that's all we can ask for.
And Robert, to round out the final questions here for you, I gotta ask you. You had a very solid performance here tonight. You looked very promising throughout the season. Now I gotta ask you, what are kind of your thoughts going into a future season? What are you kind of having a little bit more confidence now, being able to run out in the front of the field and look very consistent? What are kind of your thoughts going into a future season here?
Well, it's the next gen, so nobody knows what's going to happen with this next gen. There's probably going to be a big update for it before the season starts for Daytona. So we'll see what happens there. But Andre knows what's up for next year. Good old LMM coming in, LMM Nexus. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great team, and we're going to dig.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it, Robert. Before we let you go, anybody you'd like to shout out or thank?
Nexus Esports, of course, for the great year we had for being in Coke for the first season. And I think they said 4 years since Nexus was last in Coke. And we had a solid year. It wasn't great, but it was solid. And then Pro, we're going to get back into Coke for next year. And then, yeah. Thanks for the wife. She just had surgery a couple days ago for her foot, and she's been rather immobile for the last couple days. So I'm glad she's able to put up with being in pain without me around to help her out for a few hours. But she'll be all right, and we'll keep going, keep pushing for next year.
All right, well, Robert, thank you for your time, and we'll see you next season.
I appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good night.
Third place finisher Robert Miller out of the booth. Now for a word with our second place finisher, the runner-up to the championship and the race, Jonathan Delaney. John Delaney, you got a copy?
I do, yes.
Well, John, it was an amazing season for you, and it was a valiant effort here at Phoenix. Ultimately, just coming up a little bit short. Tell me about your race, man.
It was all right. Nothing too spectacular. We started on pole. I was struggling for grip short run, so I was getting destroyed by everyone on the short run once I was stuck on the bottom. So I knew I just had to try and stay up in the front as best as I could. After the cautions. So I knew I had a really good long run car. I'm pretty sure that I think that really showed. After 30 laps, the car really kicked in, and we were really fast. And then stage one, I stayed out to try and save, or the caution right before stage one, I stayed out trying to save a set of tires. And then something happened with me, Bryson, and Cam. Bryson just missed turn one going in, or turn three. Sorry, I get used to that. Turn three, and a little. Got me my left rear. Wasn't able to save it, and that really put me back. And then after that, me and Bryson were battling for 10-15 laps, and that really cost me. And by the time I did get past him, I think Adam was just too far out. Came down. I think I kind of played the wrong strategy. I should have pit earlier instead of later. Try and hold Adam off instead of trying chasing him down. So by the time when I got past Bryson, I saw it was like almost 4 seconds. I knew it was I had to put like my best laps together to even get remotely close to him. So I think I did a really good job. It's just came up a little short.
Talking about that, going back to that contact with you and Hixsbaugh, based on what you're thinking, not a lot of intention behind the contact between you and him putting you sideways on the track there.
I don't think it was really intentional. It was just hard racing between all of us. So just yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
And Jonathan, having once you found yourself back in P12 on that restart, working your way through the field quite impressively. Once things got a little bit closer to wrapping up stage 3, I would say probably the last 40 laps or so, it kind of seemed things were kind of looking a little dim for the number 9 machine. What were kind of your thoughts, and what was your strategy to try and potentially catch up to the 83 of Adam Benefiel?
Yeah, after I pitted, I really pushed the car to its limit, and by like 30 to go, I just knew I burned the tires off. I knew I just had to try my best to try and get to him. And every lap, I started to think, the chances of winning got more and more less. So, but I was sweating there at the end. I was trying all I could to get up to Adam. So, but I definitely tried my best.
Absolutely. Well, John, congratulations on the second place finish. And before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to shout out or thank?
Yep. You guys for broadcasting, 3YTV for broadcasting this entire season. The admins, Kevin Steele and Demar Hickenbottom, they did a really good job running this league. They do an awesome, fantastic job. So shout out to them. Everyone who raced this year, it was a really good season. Let's see. Everyone at Lockdown Racing for all the work that got put into this car this week. It was definitely tried our best. A lot of laps this week. Especially Ralph Hutchison, he put in a lot of work, so I thank him. Sparko Gaming, MPI, Garage Guys Fantasies, Dude Wipes, Maconi Setup Shop, Shorba's Racing Graphics for the car. Let's see. Shout out to Mom, Dad, Brother, Tanya, Bob, Mom, yeah, Grandma, everyone home watching. Let's see, shout out to just thoughts and prayers for Dustin's nephew Jimmy. He's going through his family's going through some rough stuff, so just be with them, and just wish everyone a merry off season. All right, that's all I have.
All right, John. Well, we will see you next season, and good talking to you.
Thank you. Yes.
Jonathan Delaney out of the booth, and now it's time for the fun interview with our champion, Adam Benefiel. We're going to bring him up. Adam Benefiel, you got a copy?
Heck yeah.
Adam, what a run today. First of all, congratulations. This is such a special moment. Just what does it mean, man, to get to victory lane, to get the championship, and to do it for Jimmy?
I got chill bumps, man. Coming out of 4 to get the white flag. I literally had chills, and I started tearing up a little bit, so I had to get myself under control and finish out the lap. But dude, the work just went into this one race. The whole season was a grind, but this one race, the laps that we put into it, and the late nights, like it's hard to put into words, man. We worked so hard for this one race, and it feels so good to be able to get it for Jimmy and Dustin and all their family. It's a rough thing, but Jimmy, man, this is for you, buddy. This is for you. It was a fight, and we showed this whole race. If you fight and claw, you can conquer anything, man. You just got to have the mindset to do it, and that's exactly what we had tonight. We knew we come in there, off not quite as much pace as the 9 car, but we weren't going to back down. That's for damn sure.
Between everybody in the Jimmy Strong community, do you know of anybody from the family that was watching? And when's the first opportunity you're going to get to interact with the family?
I know the uncle was in the race with me, so
Yeah,
I know Jimmy and his dad, Daniel. They watch these races. From my understanding, they were watching, and I hope we did them proud, man. I really do.
Absolutely, Adam. Coming out here tonight, putting out an absolutely fantastic win. That 83 machine was looking very excellent out there tonight, Adam. You came out here tonight and you might not have had a lot of confidence coming into tonight, but you absolutely put on a clinic for these guys, and the rest of the field was definitely struggling to try and catch up with you there towards the end of the race, Adam. Fantastic work from you in that number 83 machine, and hopefully that carries forward into next season. And yeah, Adam, congratulations on your first place podium finish tonight, and congratulations on the championship.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. I really do. It means a lot. I appreciate it.
Now we're going to go ahead and hand the microphone over to Kevin Steele, who's going to give you the official celebration and the trophy. Kevin, what do you got?
Hey, first and foremost, on behalf of 100% Leagues, I'd like to thank all the drivers for another great year. The community that we have is like a little virtual family. We're a bit dysfunctional at times, but we're a family nonetheless. Thanks to the whole audience at home, whether you're friends or family of the drivers or you found us through one of our partners, we appreciate you guys watching every week. And I'd like to thank the broadcast team that we had throughout the year. It's not easy to do what you guys do, but we appreciate you doing it. Before we present the virtual trophy, I'd like to say a few words about our champion. Adam came into the series last year, and we only knew 2 things about him. We knew he finished 8th once at Charlotte in the Coke Series, and he was Michael Conti's crew chief. We were all pretty worried, but in his first few starts, he didn't quite make the impression that we were all expecting, and it kind of led to people questioning if he'd really be a threat for the whole season. He answered that pretty quickly by winning 3 of the first 5 races in 2021, and throughout the rest of the season, Adam proved that he was the man to beat when he showed up. So, Adam, on behalf of 100% Leagues, congratulations. You are the 2021 100% Cup Series champion. Your trophy will be in the mail soon. Congrats, buddy.
I appreciate it. That sounds so sexy. Love it.
Perfect. Cheers.
Thanks, man. And to just thank you and Damaris for the league. Y'all put together all this is, y'all put together the community and everything. Like you said, y'all did it. Y'all made the best damn league on iRacing. I know I'm not supposed to cuss, but I mean, you just got to be honest sometimes, and that's exactly what you two have done. Y'all have done a great job. It's only getting better, and I look forward to many more seasons over here, and hopefully more wins and championships.
I really appreciate that, Adam. It means a lot. Thanks, man.
Yeah, brother.
All right, well, Adam, before we let you go, again, I just got to say congratulations. Such an awesome performance. Is there anybody that you'd like to shout out or thank?
Yeah. I got to thank, first and foremost, I got to thank my wife for letting me spend this much time this weekend here and all these late nights that we've done. I appreciate her so much for she found out about what we was doing and the calls, and she basically told me to get in there and get it done. So that's what we did. And but Dustin Hall's an absolute goat. I don't even know. I think we had 10 wins this year. I don't know, 11. 90% of those, I could not have done it without him. I mean, he's that dude right there. I owe so much to. He's a great friend, and all the guys at Team Conti, WR1 for being with me the whole season. I know I'm forgetting somebody. Y'all for broadcasting it and putting up with my crazy interviews from time to time, and all the guys in the league. We all get heated and we have words, but we put on some freaking good racing. I mean, honest to God, coming into the night, man, any four of us could have done it. Cam was fast. I knew he was going to be good. Bryson, unfortunate deal out of turn 2 that was right in front of me. He caught the wall. That wouldn't have happened. He had a hot. I mean, hell, he had the same, sister set to what we had, and Delaney. I mean, he's gotten picked up and by a pro team, and he's fast. But anyway, I'm gonna go grab some beer and I'm gonna have some fun.
Yeah, we're gonna let you go celebrate, Adam. I'm sure it'll be one heck of a celebration. Congratulations and have fun, man.
Heck yeah, dude. Thanks.
And Benefiel out of the booth, and that is pretty much gonna do it for our post-race coverage, and that's gonna do it for the season. 100% Cup Series. On behalf of 3 Wide TV and 100% Cup Series, I just want to thank everybody who tuned in all season long, watching these races. And the drivers put on one heck of a show. Adam said it. These guys put on a race every single week, and they've made it a blast to commentate. You guys got any closing thoughts?
Well, having come in here later in the season and having watched these guys perform as well as they have, it's been absolutely thrilling. Adam Benefiel coming out with the championship win. Guys, I gotta say, it's been absolutely fantastic being here week in, week out for I would say the later portion of the playoffs. It's been fantastic watching these guys duke it out, try and make what they can happen, and glad to see Adam Benefiel in the 83 able to take away the win for this season. And hopefully I'll be able to come in and commentate some more with you guys for the next season.
Yeah, I mean, echoing those sentiments, I came in race 32, I think is what it was. 32 or 33 on the season, so I came in really late as well, but I can see how strong the community is. I can see how strong the racers are as a virtual family, as I believe it was John Delaney put it. And it's been an absolute honor and privilege to be a part of it and help bring this style of racing to you guys. It's been a lot of fun. The drivers have been awesome. Production's been awesome. 3 Wide TV has been really fun to work with. So I'm looking forward to what happens in 2022 as we get set for Daytona and the next gen update, as that could obviously put some wrinkles in things. But it's going to be a lot of fun regardless, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I got to give a big shout out to Carlos Acosta. I'm not kidding when I say he is the reason these broadcasts are possible. He puts in so much work and so much time to make these broadcasts look as amazing as they do. They really are some of the best iRacing broadcasts I think I've seen on YouTube. So he does a phenomenal job, and a big thanks to him. And again, a big thanks to the viewers and the admins, Kevin Steele and Morris Hickenbottom, for putting on the league and letting us do what we do. That's going to do it for us here at 100% Cup Series and 3 Wide TV. We will see you at Daytona.